rather than head coach. Man City's Pep Guardiola, David Moyes of Everton, Ipswich boss Kieran McKenna, Southampton's Ivan Juric, Oliver Glasner at Crystal Palace and Leicester's Ruud van Nistelrooy were the only actual managers of their respective teams. Everyone else? That's right, head coach, including Ruben Amorim at Man United. He took over from Erik ten Hag, a man who had is between a head coach and a manager. A manager's got a huge range of responsibilities. They're not just in charge of training and player lineups, they're also heavily involved in player sales and transfers. Critical stuff. But a head coach's role is far more focused on team training and performance on the pitch. So whereas Ten Hag was highly involved with decisions around transfers during his tenure, the intention was that Amorim wouldn't be, at least not on the same level. And as the sporting structure at Man United changed under Sir Jim Ratcliffe, people like Sir Dave Brailsford took charge of transfers instead. How all those roles play out in practice may be slightly different at different clubs though. On the other hand, the contracts of actual managers like Pep or Moyes had no limits on their job role and their involvement with transfers and contracts. But those guys are actually in the minority now, and it's a change that's happened pretty quickly. In 2019, there were only 6 head coaches in the Premier League, but by 2025 there were 14. A clear indication that more and more clubs are moving towards a model where the guy in charge is actually only really in charge on the pitch. And the way things are going, it might not be long before all 20 clubs have got head coaches, and the job position of football manager in the top flight is no more.
This is the Weekend Sports Breakfast. Pleasure to have your company this Sunday morning. I'm Natalie Sawyer, and with me it is the former Republic of Ireland striker, Tony Cascarino.
Good morning.
We've got another busy show, as we always have here on talkSPORT, and the EFL is well and truly back with 22 games played yesterday, 51 goals scored. We'll be looking back at a hectic first day across Leagues 1 and 2. Elsewhere, talkSPORT understands that Newcastle launched their first initial bid for Manchester United target Benjamin Sesko, but RB Leipzig have deemed the offer unsuitable. Eddie Howe's perspective, he's not sure what happens next.
I really don't know what's going to happen next, but from our perspective, we still support Alex in every way, and my wish is still that we see him in a Newcastle shirt again.
Yep, that's Eddie Howe, of course, talking about the Alexander Isak situation. Elsewhere as well, the British and Irish Lions won the war last weekend when they claimed the Test series against the Wallabies in Melbourne, but they didn't get the whitewash that would have made them legends as they lost 22-12 yesterday. Head coach Andy Farrell is still immensely proud of what his team accomplished.
There's obviously going to be frustration there because, like we've said all along, that we wanted to win every game, and rightly so. On reflection, tonight and tomorrow, we'll be unbelievably proud of what we achieved.
And that's where we're going to start the show, talking about what happened then in Sydney, where, Cass, there was frustration in the end for the Lions. Not so for Australia, though, who really needed to get some pride back into their team. Before we talk about it in detail, Cass, let's hear how it all sounded live on talkSPORT.
And here we are then. We're up and running, and Nick White gets the third and final test of the British and Irish Lions Series 2025 underway. Right, gives to Dylan Peach, and Dylan Peach scores in the left corner.
The Lions, they're on the rack. I know they are real struggling.
It's a Lions tour that's pretty much had everything, has it? And now we've got play suspended due to a lightning strike. Tate McDermott will score, and that is it. Cherry on top of icing, on top of cake. I cannot see how the British and Irish Lions come back from this one. Game over. Series over. Well, the Lions are beaten in Sydney, but in a way it mattered not, because they already had the trophy done and dusted. It might be disappointment on the night, it's certainly not on the series. British and Irish Lions win the series 2-1.
Yes, ultimately it was job done last weekend for the Lions in getting that series victory under their belt. But as mentioned, it was all a case of could they get a whitewash and become the first side to achieve that for nearly 100 years. And it would have written their names, Cass, into the history books as a result of that. But it was, in the end, a disappointing performance from the Lions.
Yeah. Well, it was a slugfest.
Yeah.
That's exactly what the game became. Australia quite clearly wanted to set the tone physically. When you have players like Will Skelton in the Australian, who's going to make it as difficult as he can for the opposition. I said this last week, Nat, when look, there's a lot of people listening, and we were talking about yesterday that what would the Lions be like when you've already won the series? Last weekend, Andy Farrell has said, and rightly said, we're going to enjoy this, that victory of winning the series. So what he meant was, we're going to let our air down tonight and maybe even tomorrow, and then we'll get back to work on Monday morning and training and prepare for the final test. But it comes at a bit of a price because the people you're playing against do not want to be humiliated. So they're going to make it as physical as they could in horrible conditions. Let's remember.
Oh, it was.
I mean, how many times the ball was dropped, especially by the Lions yesterday, slipping out of their hands and just couldn't get anything going. And it was the same for Australia, but they just, for me, wanted it a bit more.
Yeah.
And I understand that because there's one thing, what was the goal before the test series started? Was to win the series. It wasn't to win 3-0. And I know loads of people talked about it, 3-0, 3-0. For Andy Farrell and his players, it was about winning the test series. No more. And that was achieved last weekend. So, yesterday's performance was hugely disappointing. It was way below par. And no one really expected the Lions to be as poor as they were yesterday. But with the conditions, injuries to certain players, Atoji, the captain, coming off, all these sort of things happened. I don't know if it was better for Andy Farrell to have actually selected a team that was players who hadn't played. Give them the final game.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, because he didn't really make that many changes to this side, certainly. And it's an interesting one because you're right. And we spoke about the fact that they could have been history makers in winning it 3-0. But I read a piece from Lawrence Dallaglio in the papers this morning where he said, it's one thing talking about it. It's another when the job is already done, like you've alluded to already. And it's inevitable that sometimes that foot just comes off the gas. You don't want it to.
No.
They'll all go in there pumped
and it's not
and
deliberate.
No, they want to win. Of course they do.
Yeah.
But sometimes it just doesn't go that way. And like you say, Australia wanted it more because they had a point to prove, because especially when you consider what happened in that first test where they were so underwhelming and undercooked, that they had to prove a point that they were better than what they were. And they suffered that heartbreak, as we know, last weekend with that late try that was awarded for the Lions as well. So there was a lot riding on it for Australia more than anything.
For rugby union in Australia.
For Australia, yeah.
Because of what's happened to the sport in Australia, it's clearly lost its momentum of where it was in years gone by.
Let's not forget that in Australia, so in 2027 there's a Rugby World Cup. In 2029 there's a Rugby World Cup, men's and women's.
Right.
So they're building towards both of these huge occasions where a performance like that yesterday is only going to earn the favour of the fans once more and give them that kind of, and I know it's still a few years away, but get them pumped up for something good potentially on the cards. Now, Joe Schmidt's not going to be in charge of Australia by then, but they do have the Rugby Championship as well to look forward to, which starts later this month. And within that, again, a performance like that yesterday is only going to help them with a bit of momentum going into that Rugby Championship. And you talk about feisty. Oh, my God, Nick White for Australia. He's the most annoying. He's one of those players where if he's in your team, you're going to love him. But he was involved in everything that was niggling. Yes, and he just loves it. Absolutely loves it. So yeah, he was interesting. The weather itself, my goodness, it hammered it down, and they had to have a 40-minute delay or so because of the fear of or threat of lightning, which meant the players had to go into the tunnel or into the dressing rooms, I should say.
When we talk about having cameras in dressing rooms, I quite like the fact that when they were in the dressing room, it kept the sort of the feeling of the rugby match going by watching them sit down, chill out, then watching people walk around doing their own thing.
Yeah,
and then suddenly they have to do a warm-up in the dressing room and they're all doing all these different exercises. Yeah. It was just, I found that really interesting, you know, having the cameras in to watch what they're doing in them 40 minutes.
Did you see the bit where, I don't know who it was, forgive me, where at one point one of the, I presume, staff of Lions, like a coach or someone, put a towel over the camera? So the camera was panning round and you suddenly just saw this towel go over it. So they obviously didn't want something to be seen, but eventually they did get either another camera or they removed that. But you're right, just seeing some of the Lions players just chilling on beanbags. It's like fabulous.
Do you know what? Maybe, let's ask this question, maybe the Lions weren't good enough to win 3-0.
Well, do you know what?
Do you know what I mean by that?
It's an interesting point that you make, because there has been a lot of talk of, did we actually see the best of the Lions throughout this whole series? Because the first test was good, was a good performance, but I'm not sure we could say they blew Australia away, as much as Australia weren't particularly great.
Australia made a number of changes since the first test, didn't they? But
also if you remember, Australia had a little fight back at the end of that first test as well, and the Lions didn't put in a full 80-minute performance, as we said. Second test, Australia were better for much of that test, and it was only again that late try that sealed the victory for the Lions. And then of course yesterday, quite disappointing really from what was expected. So that might be an interesting question to put to James Hook, who'll be joining us a bit later on. Then, did we actually truly see the best of the Lions, even though they won the tour and the series, and we should celebrate that? But it's an interesting point that you make, you know, how good were they?
It made me think that while I'm watching it, and watching a slugfest between two nations, and Australia are not Australia of years gone by, that's for sure. But were the Lions that good? Well, I just think they felt like a team that, I thought Andy Farrell's team looked like they had a direction of how to win the series, which they achieved quite, obviously in the first two tests. But there wasn't a lot more than that, by yesterday's game. But I understand of, being an ex-sportsman, that sometimes when you've achieved something and then expected to perform again and slightly come off that pedal, that...
Well, we see it, don't we? Like, you see, absolutely right. I mean, how many times do you see a team, I don't know, let Liverpool win the league like they did, and then the next game they might not be as up for it as you see, and they might not actually win the next game because you have taken your foot off the gas and you might have overindulged in some celebration. I mean, I remember... Did
it with Millwall when we got promoted against Blackburn.
But it's natural.
We literally... last week of the season, we had Blackburn at home. We lost 4-1 at home. Final game.
I get it. And I remember the same thing with my club. When we got promoted from League One, I think pretty much the next game we were away to Colchester and we got hammered I think it was 4-0. And I was there at the game and I said it was one of the worst performances I've ever seen. And from a fan's perspective, you're so disappointed because you're thinking, let's carry that momentum through. But at the end of the day, they did what they had to do.
Yeah.
They just did it in a few games earlier, as in the case of promotion or winning a league, for example. So you can understand why it doesn't necessarily go to
It doesn't take a lot. Remember, we always use the phrase in sport, small margins make a big difference.
Yeah.
So if them small margins come off, you saw the outcome yesterday. And the small margins, the Lions weren't quite as good.
Yeah. Yeah. But ultimately, job done. Yeah. They got what they wanted. And now Andy Farrell's talking about the potential of leading the Lions once more.
New Zealand, isn't it?
Got the bug. Yeah, he's got the bug. So we'll see what happens with that one for sure. Right, there is so much for us to get through. We will be looking back at what happened in the EFL for you a little bit later on. We'll be looking ahead to what is to come today as well. We'll bring you the latest transfer news. We'll talk cricket. Yay. You got your...
I watched it again yesterday. Last ball of the day. We'll talk about that later.
Well, penultimate. Zach Crawley one.
Yeah.
Yes, I know. That's disappointing, isn't it?
But didn't think there was another bowl after that.
Oh, it's definitely the penultimate bowl.
Oh,
definitely. Okay. If you read reports, definitely says penultimate. But on the way next, we're going to talk player power because it seems as though it is all shifting, as we've seen in this window with what's happening with Alexander Isak, Johan Wieser as well. So we'll talk that next.
comes. Meet the Flintstones. They're the modern Stone Age family. From the
Good morning. This is the Weekend Sports Breakfast with the former Aston Villa striker Tony Cascarino and me, Natalie Sawyer, as we take you through until 10 this morning. This put a smile on our faces, hasn't it, this morning?
The Flintstones. This just reminds me of my childhood.
I was going to say, the cartoon, I just remember watching all the time and loving it. And the reason we're playing it is because in the papers this morning, there's a story that says blokes are modern Fred Flintstones who all want their own man cave. A space for themselves is a must-have, so this article says, for 1 in 10 men when it comes to buying a house. And the most wanted things to have in their cave are a games room or a home cinema, a gym or a bar.
Yeah.
Have you got your own man cave?
No.
Would you like your own man cave?
Yeah, I suppose, I quite like the idea of a few friends round and chilling out and having a pool table, dartboard, TV.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. And
but I like the idea of that. It sounds
just
fun.
Yeah.
I think that's absolutely acceptable. And do you know what? That means if you have got one of those, you've got a big house. So that's quite nice. I've always said if that was the case, your partner can have a man cave. I just need a walk-in wardrobe. That's all I want. Unfortunately, I don't have that space for one.
That's what I want.
That's what I want. I'm desperate for a walk-in wardrobe. I just want one.
Nothing in the wardrobe, just walking into it.
No, believe me, there'll be stuff in that wardrobe. Whether or not I can get into it.
What's the item that you... is it handbag? I remember you mentioned handbags before.
There was a time where I was really into handbags. A certain designer handbag, but I've kind of curbed that because I realise it's a lot of money to spend on handbags, as much as they can still have their worth. A handbag, shoe. I've got a lot of shoes. I mean, sometimes I'm like, where have they come from? I forget I've got these shoes. So, and then this week I've already bought 2 pairs of trainers. I don't know why, because I don't need them, but I have. So, and I bought 2 handbags as well.
Really?
Not designer ones as such.
No, oh, right, okay.
But
reasonable ones.
Yeah, but still, what am I doing? Anyway, so there you go. I'm not surprised about the man cave. I think that's quite nice.
Yeah.
I like the idea of a home cinema. I think Gabby Abonlahor's got a little home cinema.
Is he?
Yeah, that looks quite nice from what I've seen on his Instagram and stuff. Anyway, let's move on, shall we? Because Brentford travelled to QPR yesterday afternoon to continue their pre-season preparations under new manager Keith Andrews. They won the game 1-0. However, Yoane Wissa, a notable name not involved. It has to be said, there were quite a few big names not involved. Jordan Henderson, for example, not there. Ethan Pinnock, likewise, too. But this is all, of course, centering on the fact that Yoane Wissa is refusing to train as he tries to move or force a move out of the club, and talkSPORT understands as a result Brentford are now starting to soften their stance of not for sale for the forward, but this is all based on whether they can find a replacement. Elsewhere, as we know, Alexander Isak is reported to be training alone at his former club Real Sociedad amid continued uncertainty around his Newcastle future, although there are suggestions that he will return to Newcastle training, I think, for next weekend. The former Burnley and Everton manager Sean Dyche spoke to Johnny Owen earlier this week about player power becoming increasingly difficult to manage.
Everyone known for years now the player power that's growing and growing, and it is tough. It's a tough situation. The player's been bought in for a lot of money. He's done a fantastic job. I was checking his goals. I mean, I knew he'd scored a lot, but I think it's 54 and 86. Wow. I mean, that's a lot.
It is.
For someone new to the Premier League. I know they spent a lot of money. I think it was around 40, something like that, to get into Newcastle Football Club. 120. Let's imagine that's the current offer.
Yeah.
If that's a fact, that's a lot of money for a centre forward. And it takes a big club, which Newcastle are, to turn that kind of money down. But then you have got the player angle. What's the player's angle? We don't know what inside the camp. We don't know the players' feelings about it. And it's all right saying, well, these clubs should be keeping the players. It's not easy if the player's going to down tools, but even mentally, not necessarily physically, but, just mentally lose their edge. Then what happens to their value? Their value goes down. So it's very difficult now, for clubs to keep these players. Then players saying, well, what about a new contract? Well, if his mindset on not a new contract and it's Liverpool Football Club, let's say, that he wants, then where is the line?
So that's what Sean Dyche had to say with Johnny Owen on Friday here on talkSPORT. Excuse my bottle popping there. So yeah, player power. I don't want to say it's not a new thing. It's been around for years and years and years, and we've talked about it plenty of times.
Can be a good thing as well.
Go on, explain why.
Well, if you get players with the right mentality and the right attitude and lead by example in a dressing room, that can be good, and that can be used as a player power that benefits the team and the club. Mm-hmm. But when you get sometimes individuals, and this is where I have a little bit of an axe to grind with a club sometimes, they don't implement some of the rules. If people break rules, fine them. Okay, and people listen to my go, they don't care if they get fined. Well, still fine them. You know, imagine, look, Simon Jordan's been an owner, okay? Imagine him as an owner going to a player dealing with him. He would probably have quite zero tolerance to some of the things that go on, and rightly so. And he'd, reward players with contracts that he felt were pulling in the right direction or were making the club. Now, that's one owner. But if you generally look at football clubs and if you start getting concerned about what the player might do, whether it's not turning up, well then, if it's in the rule book that says, you're not being a true professional like you should be, fine them.
Am I right in thinking, and I could be just making this up off... am I right? There's only so much you can fine a player. So, like, if, for example, with limits. The Wissa situation, Isak likewise. I mean, it's only like 2 weeks worth that you can fine.
If it continually goes on, you can fine them again.
But that's what I don't know. That's what I'm asking.
You
I don't know how many times. Because I would totally agree with you. As much as you're right in saying financially, it's probably not a big hit for them, especially if they're going to get the big money move at the end of the day anyway. But it's making a stance still, isn't it?
Well, you're basically saying I'm not going to accept this behaviour.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know you want your move. And if the move is right for us, you have 3 years on a contract or you have 1 year left on your contract. Think of the players. I'll give you an example. No one talks about him this summer. Mark Gay has been kept at Crystal Palace. Okay, Newcastle came in last year. He ended up having a really good season with Crystal Palace last year. Never rocked the boat, never slammed in, as far as I know. He might have been unhappy with the scenario that they didn't allow him to be sold, but we're not hearing in the newspapers, well, he's not training, he's not turning up. You can't just do things because you haven't got your way. So if clubs accept that, then you're going to pay the price. So I think you have to use some of the weapons you have as a football club to stop this behaviour as well, where players can just go, nah, I'm not going in, I'm not training. And if a player is up on the training ground, a manager should have the right, if he's not training properly, tell him to go in.
But also, from the other side, clubs have a responsibility. They're the ones that are helping to unsettle these players.
Yeah, it can be.
Sean Dyche is talking there, and I talked about this yesterday. James Tarkowski was a Brentford player a few years ago, and I absolutely love James. He's a great lad, so it's just what happened at the time. He refused to play for Brentford at one point because Burnley were interested in him. Sean Dyche was the manager then. So again, there were conversations taking place clearly behind the scenes because he refused to play for us and never played for us again until he moved on. Like I say, so managers and clubs, they're all at fault for a lot of this.
Of course.
We've started this issue of having these conversations before they're even meant to have these conversations. We know it happens. It's just we've allowed it to happen. No one comes down on these clubs anymore or agents or whatever it is. And we've just now got into this cycle of it.
Yeah, if you accept bad behaviour, then you have to suffer the consequences sometimes. Yeah. And I think clubs have to use it in their power. I understand they have a value for a player, and the value might obviously drop because, if a player's not played for 2 months. But you can't accept. This is where... Take Manchester United. What did Ruben Amorim want to do? Change the culture at the football club and stop players having their own way and, picking and choosing whether they're fit or whether they're, want to play at this particular club.
Yep, I get that.
You can't have that. Look, Marcus Rashford ended up going to Barcelona. And he's a very lucky man. He might make the most of it. But his last 2 years at Manchester United were full of problems from one to another. And it was accepted for a while. If you had player power dressing room, then players, a lot of them in that dressing room wouldn't accept a player behaving wrong.
And the other thing...
And that's the good side of player power.
Yeah. But the other thing as well is we often say, well, does this not tarnish their reputation? It might tarnish their legacy at their respective current clubs. But ultimately, Liverpool don't care. If they can still get Isak, they don't care about what's going on right now. They don't care that it looks wrong. Likewise, Johan Wissa and what's happening with him. Newcastle don't care because ultimately they still want the player. So it doesn't put teams off at the end of the day.
No,
despite the fact that we're all talking here going, it's pretty unprofessional, actually. But they're still going to make the bids. They're still going to buy the players because they know how big an asset and potential they could be to bolstering their side.
Yeah, there's a lot of things we don't know that happens between football clubs and the players and the agents. And in the agent, it's quite obvious the agent would have knew exactly what Liverpool were prepared to do. I'm sure there would have been meetings along the way, conversations about, okay, an agent asking Liverpool Football Club, what are you expecting to go to? Are you going to, they want 150 and they're not budging. Where are Liverpool going to go? Are you going to go to 130, 135? Yeah. Them conversations, an agent would know how far Liverpool are going to go.
Well, exactly. We're not in this situation because Isak's just gone, fingers crossed, they're going to be interested in me. It's because there have been initial conversations taking place. Likewise with any player that does this. It's because they have been given the green light that something is brewing, something could happen. But you're going to help us by maybe forcing that
Look
move.
at the evidence, Nat, right? Why are Newcastle trying to hijack the Sesko deal? They're coming in, they're desperate, and they've been trying to buy. They've lost, obviously, who's just joined West Ham and then one-year deal, Callum Wilson. They've lost him. They think they're going to lose Isak. They're already interested in other strikers, so they're trying to press. They're trying to
preparation.
Capture the deal of Sesko and trying to. This happens,
and that's exactly why Brentford are now saying, we are softening our stance, but only if we can find you a replacement for Wissa.
Yeah.
Oh, it's going to be a fascinating summer and see how it all pans out with the window closing in less than a month's time now. Ben Jacobs will be joining us a little bit later on to run us through all the very latest transfer news for you too. Now, we'll take a break. When we return, we'll concentrate on the EFL. morning. This is the Weekend Sports Breakfast. We're live on your radio, YouTube and smart TV. It is a man who has the freedom of the French town Nancy, Tony Cascarino, who is alongside me, Natalie Sawyer. And we are with you until 10, and then you've got the Sunday edition to look forward to. Now we're focusing very much on the EFL, and it turned out to be a pretty exciting opening day of action yesterday in Leagues 1 and 2. Here's how it all sounded across the talkSPORT network.
Ruben Colwill fires the ball goalwards and equalises, went direct for goal and found it.
I tell you what, it's an outstanding finish.
Capaccio, oh what a goal! What a way to get your first goal for Cardiff City.
Remembering my own playing days, and the first day of the season can be quite a difficult game because there's so much expectation, you put so much into it.
Plymouth 0, Barnsley 2, and this time it is an absolute cracker from Adam Phillips. And it's teed up for a shot and into the bottom corner. A left-footed drive by Bobby Poynton, and it's Bradford City 2, Wycombe Wanderers 0, and Valley Parade is in dreamland.
Huddersfield 2, Leyton Orient 0. Alfie May has just got his debut goal for Huddersfield.
Bonds, who was about 12-15 yards out, left of centre, and he's turned and fired the ball into the back of that. Uphill task now for the EFL new boys. Barnet 0, Fleetwood 2.
Lincoln 2, Reading 0. Lincoln double their lead. Rico Hackett has kept his calm, kept his composure. The lovely finish here.
Udo's done one, he's made the run and the finish and the goal for Wycombe Wanderers, and they're back in this game. Plymouth 1, Barnsley 3 to surely wraps it up. Davis Kinordun is the man who's got it.
Comes Molyneux, hits it, and it goes straight down the middle. It is Doncaster Rovers 1, Exeter 0.
10-man Walsall 2, Swindon 1. Connor Barrett. This stadium has come alive once again.
It does feel like a flattering scoreline, but Huddersfield 3-0 up.
Well, so much to unpack then from a very exciting Saturday. We saw, 2 out of 500 odd live commentaries we're bringing you on the talkSPORT network from this EFL new season. Delighted to say, joining us to look back on it and perhaps to look ahead to what is to come. EFL podcaster, host of the Second Tier podcast, it's Justin Peach. Justin, good morning. How are you doing
Justin.
today?
Morning, guys. How are we?
Yeah, good.
Yeah, great. As we mentioned there, action-packed as always. That's what we love to see. I can't even believe, actually, that the season's come around so quick, but it delivered as it always does yesterday.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a fun one. There was more refereeing, controversies. There was red cards. There was more than I expected. Usually it's a case of missed chances, players getting up to speed, but it delivered. It always does.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Justin, you talk about red cards. I mean, go to Plymouth straight away because it was a free for all there in the defeat against Barnsley that Plymouth suffered. Tell us about that game because a lot happened in that match.
Yeah, there was a lot going on. I think in terms of defending, that was the main talking point. Obviously, the I would say scrapping, which is a surprise considering players are just coming off the holidays, a bit more relaxed, but it's as competitive as ever. But yeah, I think it was a surprise result from a Barnsley perspective, but when you look at the defending Plymouth put in for the goals, it really was disappointing. The first one, the Plymouth didn't really deal with it. It was dangled legs. Second one didn't contest aerially and ended up clearing half out the edge of the box. And the third one was just, again, a lack of conviction. Not something you really want to do on your first day of the season. But Barnsley took full advantage and they took the 3 points home. So yeah, it was a huge win and a big one for Conor Hourihane, who needs results to get going because I think the fans have been a bit restless because of decision making upstairs over the years.
Yeah, similar at Cardiff, I suppose as well. When you consider what's happened with them over the last few years, and they're in League One now after relegation last season, a really disappointing season when they finished bottom of the league. They've appointed Brian Barry Murphy as their new manager, and he comes in with a lot of high regard after his work that he's done at the Manchester City Academy and his coaching experiences elsewhere too. And they got off to a winning start. Many are backing them to perhaps win League One. Do you see that as a possibility?
I expect them to push for promotion, whether that's automatics or through the playoffs is another question. I think there's a lot of uncertainties with Cardiff, especially in the boardroom, it's a very difficult situation. The reason why they got relegated last season was because of poor decision making upstairs. The squad was good enough to compete mid-table in the Championship, but unfortunately, managerial decision making was just not up to speed. Brian Barry-Murphy, I think, is a smart appointment. The type of football he wants to play is I think, is very different to what Cardiff have been used to. Errol Bullitt, I think, wanted to put out a similar style of play last year, but it didn't quite pay off or work out at all because obviously he'd lost his job within a few weeks of the season. But with Brian Barry-Murphy, there's a fresh restart here. I mean, with the game, we saw elements of what he wanted to put out, but also there was some question marks to come out of it as well.
I was going to add, because one game that stuck out to me yesterday was Huddersfield beating Leyton Orient 3-0, and I know Leyton Orient have used the loan market brilliantly well. They've lost some of them. They lost their keeper to Luton. Got beat. Alfie May scores in his debut, who Huddersfield paid over $1 million for. So a really good start for them.
Yeah, really good start. Obviously, Lee Grant's come in from Ipswich. I think is a really smart appointment. They're a club who, similar to Barnsley, quite a lot of clubs actually were in a similar situation where they, fans were very restless. Decision making last season was interesting. Obviously, Michael Duff was there and he moved on. But Lee Grant coming up from Ipswich, I think is as I say, a very smart appointment. Played a huge role in what was one of the biggest, I think, success stories in English football for a long time in Ipswich, doing the double promotion, and they've gone through an extensive recruitment campaign. So getting off to a good start was imperative for Lee Grant, and obviously at home as well. It was massive. I think the balance of the game was interesting because I think Leyton Orient had a fair few chances, but getting that 3 points in your first game like Brian Barry-Murphy, I think is very important.
If anyone was sort of tuning into the show yesterday, we played a little package where we were talking about the League Two predictions. Every single person in there said MK Dons, they're going to win League Two. And they got off to a goalless start at home to Oldham in this first game of the season. But can you understand the thinking where everyone's coming from when it comes to MK Dons, the team to look out for in League Two?
I mean, when they're signing the players they're signing, I'm a Derby fan, so I know Paul Warne very well. Nathaniel Mendes-Lang's gone in there. It makes sense. Aaron Collins is a great player. Rushan Hepburn-Murphy as well. You can see it. Paul Warne's, I think, achieved 4 promotions in 4 in the seasons that he's been out of the Championship. So he's a huge success story. It just depends whether or not that the style of play that Paul Warne wants to implement is actually the right way for MK Dons, because they've very much been a technical development club for a long time, and Paul Warne very much is. He will play the percentages. So I still think there will be a style of play shift over the next few weeks that might bleed into results a little bit. I mean, yesterday's game was a good example. They didn't have a shot on target, which Paul Warne teams that have a lot of possession, they tend to struggle. Again, being a Derby fan, I witnessed it quite a lot. But with the players that they've got, it would be a surprise for them not to finish in one of the top 3 positions.
Well, you've mentioned it a few times. You're a Derby fan. The Championship season getting underway on Friday when Birmingham, back in the second tier of English football, host Ipswich, relegated from the Premier League last time around. In particular on your club, obviously last season you survived on the final day with John Eustace as your manager. What are your expectations for this upcoming season?
You're asking the worst person because I'm such a pessimist.
Oh, Justin!
I've been burnt so often with the hope of being a Derby fan. I imagine a lot of football fans, but I think this year is probably the most optimistic I've been for a while. Mainly because in previous years under previous ownerships, they spent a lot of money and it's not gone anywhere, but the recruitment has actually been quite smart. I know they spent a fair bit of money on Patrick Agyemang from Charlotte FC, but I think physically and statistically he's a good fit for the Championship. So I think it's quite a smart signing. Carlton Morris again is a very good signing. So it's delivered a lot more hope for me, and I think a top half finish, building on a top half finish into next year, where it can push for promotion. I think that would be the hope, because it's a very competitive Championship this year. I think that's the beauty of the league that we've got, and what I've got as a podcaster covering it is that it's a very hard one to call. It always is. But going into the playoffs, for example, that's where it's going to be tight. It's going to be difficult.
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously, I'm going to have to ask you, who is going to win the championship then?
It's so hard to look past Ipswich when you've got players like Jack Clark, Jaden Philogene, Amara Hutchinson, who could still leave, but again, there's still players. Sam Schmodix is there. It's really difficult to look past Ipswich. That being said, the firepower that Southampton possess, like Cameron Archer, Ross Stewart, Ben Brenton Diaz, these are players that will score goals. They got Shea Charles in midfield, a ridiculous abundance of talent. It really is ridiculous. So it's hard to look past those two. That being said, Birmingham are spending money, so they're going to compete. Likewise, Leicester going to be Wrexham are an interesting one because they're spending a lot of money. They've got a
bold and
really
old
good spine. I think Lewis O'Brien. I find it very difficult to place Wrexham, mainly because they've got a good selection of 5 or 6 players, but the rest are sort of League 1 and 2. So they've still got a lot of catching up to do with recruitment. So if they can continue the trajectory they're on in terms of signing players and the quality of players, then why not?
Justin, we wish you the best of luck then. Thank you for being with us this morning.
Cheers, Justin.
Always a pleasure.
Great to have you with us. That's Justin Peach, then the EFL podcaster who, as he was saying there, hosts the Second Tier podcast and keeps you right up to date with everything Championship and much, much more as well. But yeah, it's going to be fascinating, that Championship season. I'm watching that Birmingham documentary.
Yes, I know you said.
2 episodes in. It is really, really interesting. Although, forgive me for saying this, I do think Tom Brady is a bit of a... I don't know how to say it politely.
Loves himself?
Yeah. Doesn't come across the best in my eyes. Others might look at it differently. And look what he's done, what him and Tom Wagner have done for Birmingham. Brilliant, obviously.
Yeah, look, he held a lot of records, didn't he, as an athlete, in American football. He's going to have a big ego to some level, isn't he?
Yeah.
It's whether it goes too far. And seeing someone in a different environment, not, playing his sport, but being an owner, and overseeing most of the things that he thinks should go his way. Remember, he would have been indulged a hell of a lot as a player.
Oh, absolutely. Of course.
He'd have zero tolerance to people disagreeing with it.
Yeah, I'm sure people have seen the clip when he's talking about Wayne Rooney, for example, but there are just a few awkward moments where you're just thinking, oh, they don't know what to say to each other. It's really like you're just dragging it out, trying to say stuff. But it is fascinating, I must say. I'm not going to... I love all those kind of documentaries like the Wrexham one and now this Birmingham one. So it's great to learn the behind the story situation. Yeah. So it's worth checking out for sure. By the way, we have more EFL action for you live today. It's on talkSPORT 2 exclusively. It's Stockport against Bolton. And a little bit later on, we're going to be joined by Phil Brown as we discuss that one. But on the way next, we are in the midst of a transfer window, but there are some clubs that have been relatively quiet. We'll discuss it next. Good morning. This is the Weekend Sports Breakfast. It is the crocodile legend that is Tony Cascarino who's with me, Natalie Sawyer. Go on.
Oh, the producer came in and he went 4 floors and put up 3 fingers.
Oh, did he? I didn't see the 3 fingers.
He said, I live on the 4th floor of the apartment and put up 3 fingers.
Maybe he's just got a tiny pinky and you didn't see it. Yeah, he's just said it's early morning. Give him a break. Here are some of your headlines today. The new Rangers manager, Russell Martin, has ripped into his players after drawing 1-1 in their season opener against Motherwell yesterday. This is what he's had to say. We've just taken a little bit out of what he said in his post-match. I've said to the players, there is a default here at this football club to revert to type. When it's going really well, everyone's all in. When it's not going well, you protect yourself a little bit. You can't play for this club and just enjoy the really good moments. You have to be all in all the time. We had 2 men on the pitch today that just want to do what they want to do. When you want to just jog around and do what you want to do, there's a big problem. So some of them have to drop their ego. Whew, big challenge it seems already.
I was going to say it's only the first game of the season. That it seems a bit strong for the first game of the season. and okay, look, it'll feel like a defeat, but drawing away at Motherwell and leading till late on. So.
Yeah, an 87th minute equaliser for Motherwell. Look, in some ways, he says as well, I'm going to be honest. I was honest in the dressing room and I told them I was going to be honest when I spoke afterwards as well. Yeah. You know, he's trying to shock them, obviously, but maybe even tell the fans this is what is going on and what has potentially been going on for a while.
Yeah.
So there's got to be a shake-up. You know, in some ways, I admire him, actually. As much as it's quite a shock to hear it, I quite admire that he's come out in full front and it's gone, nah.
It just feels a bit early, and also it can rebound on you. If you don't get results,
absolutely.
the fans won't listen.
No, you're right. You're right. It could go one of 2 ways. You're certainly right on that. Elsewhere, England's Charlie Hull produced a wonderful 6-under par, 66 to lie 3 shots off the lead heading into today's Women's Open final round at Royal Porthcawl. And earlier this week, talkSPORT's chief football correspondent Alex Crook and the former Arsenal winger Perry Groves had a spirited debate on just how good the Gunners' transfer window has really been.
Does it concern you that Arsenal have spent all this money to finish second again, potentially?
Calm yourself, Crookie. Just calm yourself down, because you think Liverpool have won the title already.
I think they've had a brilliant window and they're the champions.
But then comes more pressure, more expectancy. This is Arne Slot's team. And Liverpool done really well. They've had a brilliant transfer, because when you're successful, like Sir Alex Ferguson used to do Manchester United, you always go and buy 2 or 3 players, not squad players. You buy 2 or 3 players that are going to go in the first team and enhance your first team and make that stronger. And it's exactly what he's done. So Wirtz has got to get into the Premier League, you know, and the pace and the power of it. See if he can handle that. He's going to play as a 10.
Do you want any more straws to clutch on there?
What's that?
I was with Didi Hamann at Ascot recently, and he said, don't worry about him adjusting to the Premier League. He can mix it physically. He's going to be a revelation.
Well, that's a done and dusted then, because Didi Hamann said it. Didi Hamann's never got anything wrong on his judgment of players.
Okay. Interesting, obviously, both of their takes in that situation. I think most people, Cass, are saying it's Liverpool's to lose again. Not because just because they're defending champions, but because of their transfer window that they have done so well. And potentially more to come as well. But I do look at Arsenal's window and think they've kind of got everything they wanted, near enough. There might be 1 or 2 more that they want to bring in, but they've finally got the striker in.
Yeah.
That surely, I think, puts them in contention. But it equally, like Perry was just saying there's pressure on Liverpool. There is pressure on Arteta now, because you finally got that piece of the jigsaw that everyone keeps saying they've needed for so long with Gyökeres coming in.
You can make an argument there's pressure on every manager in the Premier League.
You're absolutely right.
You know, have they made the right signings? Absolutely. Zubimendi, I thought, was a great signing for Arsenal. And have you add in Gyökeres as well? I think squad players like Norgard, who plays part, will have called upon. Madueke, I think you can play on both sides. An addition that not necessarily may start, but will be battling for a place in the team.
Right.
Second keeper Kepa coming in as well. Played really well for Bournemouth last year. Really well. I don't think many Chelsea fans would have realised that, you know, they do that well for Bournemouth. So, look, they're primed to challenge for the league. All you can do is go into a season saying, we got a chance. They have a chance of winning the league, Arsenal. I think they're going to be one of the major threats. I think, of course, Liverpool from what we saw last season. There's no guarantee. If your transfer targets don't work out, or what we could talk about and say, yeah, great signing, great player for what they've done elsewhere, and they don't perform to that level, then you're going to suffer as a club. Chelsea won the Club World Cup and, played one of the best teams in Europe and beat them comfortably 3-0. Now, we could go, well, maybe the timing, maybe PSG played a lot of football and didn't quite look the team that they were at the end of the season. Look, there's some really good teams in the Premier League next year. There's 4 or 5 teams. I would say I'm not convinced that Man City will be as close as Arsenal, because I just think their fallback areas are not good defensively. And I think that's going to cost them. I don't think Diaz is quite the player he was. Kanji's, John Stones, all these players they've got at the heart of their defence, a number of them, I just think they're not quite as good as what they were. They dominated for so long, Manchester City. But if you said to me, who would I be more fearful of any team, I'd say Arsenal. As a Liverpool fan, Arsenal concern me. They are a really good side. One downside for Arsenal is Gabriel hasn't appeared yet.
Right, yeah.
And I'll be bothered by that.
Well, that's one of the things they're talking about, another defender to come in, yeah.
Gabriel is really important to them. He's, obviously, his partnership, with Saliba. I just really I think Gabriel is big for them. So if they get him in that side, Arsenal are going to be a really good side this year. And all this talk of being a Neely team, this year they've, for me, have got a side that absolutely can challenge for the title and have a bit more conviction towards the end of the season where they just need to get over the line. And I think that's all in place now.
In the main, a lot of clubs are doing their business. We've seen it, Chelsea, as you just mentioned as well, spending a lot of money, likewise Liverpool and Arsenal. Is there any club you're looking at currently in the Premier League that you're thinking they haven't really done anything and it's a bit of a concern?
Well, we mentioned sort of West Ham and Everton yesterday, where we looked at them. I think Crystal Palace are a standout club that, we were talking off air before we come on, weren't we, about Christian Benteke is still their record signing, and that was 2016-2017 season. Crystal Palace tend to be quite redundant in the transfer market compared to other clubs, considering they've been a Premier League team for quite a long time now, but still got a lot of good players. Brighton haven't done too much either, have they? They've done bits, but not your club haven't done as much as I thought they would.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of these clubs are probably dependent on players moving on before they can really make their big signings. Although, I mean, we've brought in a fair few. A couple like Michael Coyote, for example, was on loan last season. We've now made that permanent. Ramel Donovan, a similar situation. So in all, I think we've brought in 5, but there's still more that they want. Clearly.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're right. I think Fulham have only brought in 1.
Yeah, Fulham.
Which is a bit of a surprise at this present moment. But yeah,
they kept the fullback, haven't they? What's his name? Tete.
Kenny Tete.
They kept him. They managed to. Obviously, there was a lot of attention on Kenny Tete. So,
he was linked with Everton, with the medical all booked, supposedly.
So, there are clubs that are going to spend, but it feels like now we're in August and the season's nearly upon us. There'll be a lot of deals done between now and the end, that's for sure.
It does feel like that. You sort of wonder, what are they waiting for? But there has to be reasons why we're not seeing anyone through the door yet.
Financial fair play is ins and outs, and now the idea of transfers of if you can sell a youngster that comes through, and you get pure profit, that all becomes more viable now. Pedro to Brighton, who left, obviously left Brighton to Chelsea, that was a big signing. Because he immediately settled in. I know it's on a tour, but the games he played really well and looked like he was at home immediately for Chelsea. I think he could be a really interesting one next season because the centre-forward position, Jackson did okay, but, you can't have players doing okay and win a title. You try and think of title wins and say, well, he done okay. You're not in the scene being okay. He'll have more, Pedro.
Well, you mentioned centre forwards. That's what we're concentrating on next. And Benjamin Seshko, where's he going to end up? We'll talk about him next.
Everyone knows there are 20 managers in the Premier League, yeah? Well, actually, no. Around 3/4 of them are not managers. The terms manager and head coach are often used interchangeably to describe Premier League bosses, but they're actually two different jobs. So let's explain how and why. For years, fans referred to Mikel Arteta as Arsenal's manager, but I'm afraid technically...
I don't think so, no.
From his first day on the job, he was the Gunners' head coach. Let's pick a random moment in time, February 2025. Only 6 Premier League bosses actually held the official title of manager rather than head coach. Man City's Pep Guardiola, David Moyes of Everton, Ipswich boss Kieran McKenna, Southampton's Ivan Juric, Oliver Glasner at Crystal Palace and Leicester's Ruud van Nistelrooy were the only actual managers of their respective teams. Everyone else? That's right, head coach, including Ruben Amorim at Man United. He took over from Erik ten Hag, a man who had held the title of manager. Might come as a surprise that Amorim's appointment marked the first time ever that Man United had a head coach instead of a manager. But to understand why they made that decision, you also have to get what the difference is between a head coach and a manager. A manager's got a huge range of responsibilities. They're not just in charge of training and player lineups, they're also heavily involved in player sales and transfers. Critical stuff. But a head coach's role is far more focused on team training and performance on the pitch. So whereas Ten Hag was highly involved with decisions around transfers during his tenure, the intention was that Amorim wouldn't be, at least not on the same level. And as the sporting structure at Man United changed under Sir Jim Ratcliffe, people like Sir Dave Brailsford took charge of transfers instead. How all those roles play out in practice may be slightly different at different clubs though. On the other hand, the contracts of actual managers like Pep or Moyes had no limits on their job role and their involvement with transfers and contracts. But those guys are actually in the minority now, and it's a change that's happened pretty quickly. In 2019, there were only 6 head coaches in the Premier League, but by 2025, there were 14. A clear indication that more and more clubs are moving towards a model where the guy in charge is actually only really in charge on the pitch. And the way things are going, it might not be long before all 20 clubs have got head coaches, and the job position of football manager in the top flight is no more.
This is the Weekend Sports Breakfast. I'm Natalie Sawyer, and with me it is the former Marseille striker Tony Cascarino.
Good morning.
Busy show as always. The EFL well and truly back. 22 games played yesterday, 51 goals scored. We're going to be looking back at a hectic Thursday across Leagues 1 and 2 and look ahead to what is to come today. Charles Leclerc gave Ferrari their first pole position of the season at the Hungarian Grand Prix. talkSPORT reporter Tom Clayton will have live updates of the race from 2.
Well, as qualifying sessions go at the Hungarian Grand Prix, it was about as close as you could have got. The top 4 separated by less than a tenth of a second. This time last year, Oscar Piastri claimed his very first Grand Prix victory at the Hungarian Grand Prix. Can he jump back into the lead of the race, take the win and extend his lead at the top of the championship? Find out at 2 o'clock. We'll have live updates on talkSPORT.
And the British and Irish Lions won the war last weekend when they claimed the Test series over Australia, but they lost the opportunity to inflict a whitewash on the Wallabies as they lost the final Test 22-12 yesterday. Head coach Andy Farrell still, though, is immensely proud of what his team have accomplished.
There's obviously going to be frustration there because, like we've said all along, that we wanted to win every game, and rightly so. On reflection, tonight and tomorrow, we'll be unbelievably proud of what we achieved.
Yeah, and as a result of that victory, Andy Farrell has hinted he wouldn't mind leading the British and Irish Lions again when they tour New Zealand in 2029. That is certainly one to look out for. But we're going to start this hour on some news that emerged yesterday regarding the future of Benjamin Šeško. The situation regards, obviously, Newcastle, with talkSPORT understanding that Newcastle have launched their first initial bid for Šeško. I can never say his name. Šeško. I just find it strange to say. Šeško. Who is a target for Manchester United as well. And the bid initially we believe, is around £70 million. But RB Leipzig have deemed that offer unsuitable and are holding out for something better from whichever club may come in for him. Newcastle's interest in the 22-year-old comes amidst uncertainty, as we know, over the future of Alexander Isak, who wants to leave St James's Park this summer. Eddie Howe, who is touring with Newcastle currently in their pre-season summer tour, has been speaking about this failed bid.
Sorry to sound like a broken record, Lee, but I think, yes, I'm sort of aware of what's happening, but I'm sort of not dealing with it minute to minute, and the time difference. As I said today, woke up 2 training sessions straight here, so I'm sort of finding out what's happening after everything's happened. So yeah, we're trying to bring players to the football club. I've made that clear, but I can't talk about individual targets.
Okay, so yeah, keeping his cards close to his chest, that is natural, as you can understand. Most managers say the same. And when you look at Newcastle's window so far, Anthony Elanga, the big name who's come in for £55 million. Aaron Ramsdale yesterday, that was confirmed as a season-long loan from Southampton. They've also brought in Antonio Cordero from Malaga, but that was a free transfer. I mean, they clearly need numbers because they've got the Champions League to contend with as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they need to bring players in. We chatted, in the last section about teams who hadn't done enough, and Newcastle certainly haven't done enough. But a lot is hinging on the outs and ins, isn't it? Who, if they lose Isak, they're obviously going to make a big signing or try to make a big signing of a centre forward. They've lost Callum Wilson, so in that department they're a little bit thin. So yeah. Newcastle are a club in a little bit of limbo. The way Eddie Howe is responding to questions is with a lot of uncertainty, because he's saying, I don't know what exactly is going to happen, because it's all going to be determined by really Isak, what happens with him. A lot is going to revolve around him. If they lose him, what do we do? If we keep him, how do we then reinforce knowing we've kept him?
Yeah, and when we're talking about fees in the region of 150 million, let's say, and you said yesterday you don't expect Liverpool to go that high, but maybe 130, something like that, perhaps. I mean, other clubs who are like RB Leipzig are looking on thinking, hang on, if you're going to get 150 or 130 million for Isak, we don't want to just get 70 million. We're going to hold you to ransom a little bit, surely. That's inevitable, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it was interesting. The line in the paper, and the director of football at Leipzig has said that the problem is that it's not just Newcastle who are interested in him. There are other parties.
It's a bidding war.
And so Newcastle know that they're going to have to push it a bit harder. Manchester United have made their interest quite clear, but there could be other clubs in Europe who might go, he's 22. So he's a young lad who's got a decent goal record, but still you'd like to think there's a lot more to come from Sesko as a player. But there's other clubs interested. There's more than one party involved in this. There's probably 3, maybe 4 teams who are going, we'll take him. If the price is right, we can do the deal. They'll go for it. Because his reputation, Slovenian international, has grown in, the last year or so, and rightly so. So you're going to have to pay top dollar for him. You're not getting him cheap. You're not going to get, we'll get a bargain here.
No.
It's not going to be. But they didn't get a bargain when they bought Isak. They paid nearly 60 million for him. That was a gamble in itself, because that was a big fee at the time for Alexander Isak.
But the other problem that they have, and you alluded to it there, the bidding war, they're involved with other clubs who are interested. And unfortunately for Newcastle in this summer window, they have had their targets who have come and gone. Hugo Ekitike was one. Brian Mbeumo, similar as well. That's the issue they have as well. It feels like the market is such a small pool when it comes to certain types of players, as we know, that you end up in this war trying your best to convince a player to come to you. But unfortunately, at the end of the day, it can't always work out. And it seems as though, apart from, as we mentioned, Anthony Elanga and Aaron Ramsdale, they haven't really been able to get anyone else through the door.
No. And it's a tough one, because they're competing against some of the biggest clubs in Europe, not only in England but in Europe. Manchester United are not in the Champions League. Does that give an advantage to Newcastle? Slightly, because when if you imagine a player gets Real Madrid after him as it's how many deals don't get done by Real Madrid? They all get done.
Yeah.
Nearly all of them. Barcelona, Real Madrid, have they become an option for a lot of players, especially South Americans? They'll get these players, even if they weren't in the Champions League, because it's Champions League football for 1 year. That's all you're talking about. Generally, you'd like to think Manchester United, as a club of the stature they have, that would be back in the Champions League quite quickly if they get the right type of player in. So I don't see that as the biggest obstacle. He's got to want to go to Newcastle as well. Eddie Howe will want a player to join the football club. He doesn't want anyone doing him a favour. Oh, thanks for coming. And, I think it's important.
And that's the scenario they find themselves with Johan Wieser, it seems, who is keen to move to Newcastle, which is obviously a big plus. But you don't know if the Wieser deal hinges on Isak or hinges on Sesko, whatever it is. This is the knock-on effect as well. So we're all in limbo. These players are all in limbo. I'm not saying we have sympathy in that sense, but there is an element of nobody knows what's going to happen because it all can have domino effects.
But look, Eddie Howe's lost Callum Wilson, who was his second striker, who would play, and yes, he had injuries along the way. He's lost him. If he loses Isak, he needs a number one and a number two striker. So if they can get Sesko and obviously Wieser, then it solves the problem of because that's what they had last year. They had a guy who played the number two role. Okay, he was injured probably too much, but they had their number one. That's what they're looking at.
But obviously, if they keep Isak, they're not going to go with Sesko, are they?
No, you try and get Wieser through the door. You try and get through the door, because he's a very capable striker, and if called upon, he can do a job. So Eddie Howe wants that. You can't go to Champions League football and have one striker at your football club who can play that role. You would need somebody to step in if called upon.
Well, let's hear from a Newcastle fan, shall we, who rang up talkSPORT to have his say on the situation at his club and his belief that it doesn't have to just be one striker that Newcastle play. This is what Guy had to say.
I think Isak stays.
Do you?
I think we'll sign Sesko. I think basically we'll have a great team next year for the season. And I'm going to put it on board now. I think we'll finish above Liverpool.
No way. Really? So what? We win the league?
Yeah. Because I really think, personally, since the Saudis took over, I don't think they mean business. The PSR has been obviously a problem, but I think Eddie Howe hasn't got the players that he wanted to sign at the moment. But I think looking forward, I just think they're going to be a lot better team than they are last season, which they finished fifth. And I do believe that, yeah.
Oh, Guy is very optimistic. I mean, we don't really tend to see Newcastle play with two up front.
No.
But
someone's going to do it one day.
Yeah, I mean, there's no saying you can't go back to that.
I'd love to see a team play two up top. Mm-hmm. Just to... there's not one given way of playing football. You have to play this way. You have to play a 4-3-3 or you play a 5-3-2 or all these formation of 4-4-2. You don't have to play any of them. You choose the one that's best for your squad, and I'd love to see one team attempt to play two up front on a regular basis and just see how some of the teams handle it. Yeah. I think it's a dynamic that we were spoilt with for years and years. We had decades of two up front. And I loved the two up front scenarios. I felt it put pressure on defenders all the time. You create lots of chances. Football felt to me that was the only way of playing. It wasn't. We've been taught that there's many ways of playing football, but you have to find the right one for your football club. So if someone can come up with that idea again, that incredible idea that was here for decades and decades of playing two up front, everyone's concerned about having one body less in midfield. Yeah. That's how it came about. Yeah. Everyone wants an extra body in midfield.
Yeah. Well, look, Ben Jacobs, as I mentioned, will be joining us a little bit later on. I'm sure he'll have plenty more to say on what's happening with Sesko and plenty more as well. On the way next, we're going to pick out a couple of stories for you from the papers. That's next. morning. This is the Weekend Sports Breakfast. Thank you very much for joining us this Sunday morning. It is a man who knows how to do a shampoo and set, Tony Cascarino, who is with me, Natalie Sawyer. And we're going to get to the papers in just a moment. But Cass, a few people getting in touch this morning with regards to what we were discussing, especially with Newcastle. This is from Sam, who says, Newcastle finishing above Liverpool will be the first time pigs fly. That's never going to happen. Liverpool have gotten a lot stronger, and I'm a Leeds fan. So that's what Sam is saying. And Stephen Whitley Bay is saying the narrative that Newcastle can't have two strikers is frustrating. Liverpool can, Arsenal can, Manchester United can, Chelsea can, but Newcastle can't. Why is that? I don't think anyone's saying they can't.
No, it's not saying they can't. It's basically, if you're losing players in them positions, you have to replace them. And I don't imagine Eddie Howe's going to play two up front. I don't see that at all.
No, but none of those teams play two up front anyway.
No, they don't. But you do need to have, and that's what Eddie Howe's trying to do.
You
If
need
he
a second
does lose,
striker.
yeah, of course you do.
Yeah. So we will see what happens with that. Let's get to the papers, shall we?
Can I do mine first?
Please do.
Only because this article is by Tom Kershaw, and it's How Do Footballers Get So Fit? And as I'm reading it, I'm thinking, I'm so glad I'm not a footballer anymore. Honestly, Nat, I'm thinking, from what I experienced of pre-seasons and build-up, and it's
Is it very different then?
Oh, Nat. Because, literally, look, each morning at Brighton and Hove Albion, because it starts with Brighton at the training ground, starts with a pinprick, okay? Because what they're doing is the bloods, aren't they?
testing, right.
They're blood testing, and obviously, with blood testing, you're testing all the metrics of what they're missing, or they've had 5 weeks off and how fit they are, and immediately, Hunsler, the manager, wanted Brighton to be the fittest team, as in run the most distance, which they did in 80% of the games, which they averaged, which was the highest, 106,000, nearly 107,000 metres per game, which was the highest of any team, because Hunsler wanted his team to be able to outrun teams all the time with their pressing. If you watch Brighton, they press everywhere, and it just literally goes to. And I talked about the metrics now, and it's the muscle, the bone density, the body fat, that all these imbalances that can happen for players, and they have a 2-day period now, 2-day testing process with the medical department, and to complete their cardiac. Heart, obviously, all these things are going on. So all this testing about where their players are physically, where they need to be prepared for the season in the way they want to play. So it's like, and I'm thinking, this is a long way from going on the beaches at Aberystwyth in Wales and running and just, you got to run your endurance.
Running on sand is not fun.
No, and it's really hard.
Yeah.
Really, really hard. I mean, over the dunes. I remember running over the dunes with the Chelsea boys, and some of the players would hide behind a dune, just stay behind a dune, because you couldn't see if they'd dropped out or anything. Look, it's so different, but the piece is really interesting. What basically, in a nutshell, this piece is about is the players are ridiculously fit to the highest level now they've ever been, and this is going to continue.
When you were obviously playing and then you had your summer, how long would you allow yourself off?
Well, obviously international football, you were playing international games, you had less time off. But when I had periods of, say, when I was at Gillingham and the season ended, you would basically get 6 weeks, really, about 6 weeks. But obviously players come back overweight, And again, in this article, it talks about body fats, which is an obvious one, but players' conditions of when they come back. But they take their bloods, they can see all what they've had in their system. It's so transparent now. You can't say, you might look okay, but your body will tell them that what you've eaten and drunk all that time over the last few weeks.
But for example, in your 6 weeks off, would you have considered doing any sort of
I did do,
work?
I didn't go crazy, but I found that pre-season, especially as I got older, was massive for what sort of season I had.
Yeah.
I did funny enough, with Gillingham, a lad called Russell Musker. I did a lot of water skiing during the summer.
Yeah.
And we had some great fun, but great for strength, upper body strength as well. And my legs were just absolutely, I could leap as best as I ever did when I did my water skiing on the Medway. It was quite funny on the Medway doing the water skiing.
Are you supposed to be doing that?
No, Russell had a boat and he was from Bristol, and
But technically, should you have been doing it? Because you're not allowed to ski and go. You're not technically as a
Well,
footballer.
you're meant to have a watch out, aren't you, as well? Oh no, was I allowed to?
Do you know what I mean? Like, you're not allowed to go
motorbikes
skiing.
you're not. You're not allowed
but
to.
skiing, I always thought that you're not allowed to go skiing.
Yeah, you're not to go snow skiing, but I'm sure water skiing is probably in that bracket. But I did it.
Yeah.
And I pulled my hamstring in the first game of the season that year. But basically now the levels of fitness are so extreme that it's so high tech in every way that it's a really interesting article by Tom Kershaw. I'd definitely advise people to read it, because it tells you way better than I have of how much goes on during the course of the pre-season and setting up players to play their best football over the course of 9-10 months. Really, really interesting.
Yeah, well, we see it, don't we? And
all about their mechanics of their body and movement and speed, agility, all these things are coming into it.
Yeah, and we have mentioned it before, haven't we, where it does feel as though players, when they go into their summer break, they might give themselves maybe 2 weeks, it feels, and then you start seeing, especially with social media, a lot of them start putting on their social media accounts, the gym work that they're doing, or even if they go, as we see, many players going out somewhere like a Dubai, there's places in Dubai where they are training those footballers to get back up to speed as quickly as possible, so that when they would then return for their pre-season, they're in a good condition, even though it's, as we know, pre-season is pretty tough.
Well, and Anthony Gordon mentioned, we talked to Anthony Gordon yesterday, didn't we, in an article now, and he mentioned he had 2 years ago he had 4 days off, and a year after he had 1 week off. Right. And he said he was absolutely drained, mentally and physically.
Yeah.
And that's not enough. You have to get away from football for a few weeks. But again, you have to look after yourself while you're doing that. So, interesting, really good.
I'm going to take you to The Sun very quickly. It's a little piece by Rob Moore, who has been covering, or in Birmingham, covering the UK Athletics Championship. If you tuned in yesterday, Michael Waydock, our athletics correspondent, joined us to talk about this, where obviously British athletes are looking to book their place at the World Championships in Tokyo later this year. There are certain individuals who have already qualified due to their previous accomplishments, either at the Olympics or at the other, the 2023 World Championships as well. And there's all different ways of getting through, but you have to have a certain standard or by winning certain events. Daryl Nita, who finished 4th actually in Paris in the 100 metres, some sympathy for her in some ways. She was disqualified yesterday from the 100-metre trials because of her ponytail, so they say. Now, the reason, it's more than it. I know you're looking at me. What?
Yeah.
There's more to it than just that. It's not as obvious as that. Basically, her hair was blowing in the wind, so when she was in the starter blocks, because the hair was blowing, it gets in your way. You wouldn't know this necessarily. With the long locks, it can be a bit annoying. So you're all like this, and admittedly, she's in a ponytail, and because of that, she twitched in the starter block, which meant a full star. So she got disqualified as a result. Harsh. And that is the harsh reality of athletics. You don't necessarily get a second chance. It's not like...
No, I know.
Sometimes there are, less so in the sprint races, but, sometimes they'll give you a yellow card as such, but that she was straight away disqualified. So now she has to wait and see what will happen, because UK athletics can obviously give wild cards and things like that. But yeah, what a shame. All based on, and I can see it. I can picture why. I didn't actually see it on TV as such, but I could see how, if your hair gets in your face, it does irritate you and you might suddenly move. And unfortunately, she was disqualified as a result.
Well, I've got wavy hair now. It's waving goodbye.
I knew this was coming. What can I say?
I used to have a long perm. Like
how long
Kevin Keegan. Down to my shoulders.
So you could have put it in a ponytail.
It's one stage I could have. When I was at the Gillingham, I could easily have done a ponytail. Yeah, I got my mum's favourite picture is me in like this sort of shaggy perm, long hair. As my mum always says, like, I love that photo.
Oh, those were the days. She says. Oh, right.
So
you do have sympathy for Daryl Nita, And
I've said lots of players play with long hair, and I don't know, because I remember when my hair got longer, I used to think, sometimes when I'm heading, the hair would go across your face or in your eyes. I used to think, get your hair cut. I had to.
Well, obviously, the biggest example is Mark Cucurella.
Yeah,
With this
exactly.
extraordinary hair that he has. I mean, it's amazing.
But he does have a band, doesn't he? He has a band over here.
Yeah, but there's still a lot of hair there.
Oh, he's got the. He's never going bald, is he? Unless it's a wig already. But he's the most amazing
Fair play
hair.
to him. He's got an impressive head of hair, but. And unfortunately, he gets, as we see, fouled a lot of the times with people pulling on it. But hey-ho. Right, we will take a few moments to focus once more as we return from the break, to focus on the F1. The Hungarian Grand Prix is taking place later today. Good morning. This is the Weekend Sports Breakfast. It's the former Nancy striker Tony Cascarino who is alongside me, Natalie Sawyer. Conrad's just been in touch. He says, can we give a special mention for Cambridge City's player manager, Jamie Curtin? Remember Jamie
Curtin?
Jamie Curtin.
Yeah.
He's registered as a player and will turn 50
Wow.
On the 28th
I was going to say he's in his
August.
mid-40s. I didn't read Jamie
50.
Curtin was 50.
Yeah.
Wow.
There you go. Cambridge City, obviously non-league. Yeah, how fascinating. And by the way, we mentioned it, I don't know if we did mention it yesterday, Wayne Rooney's brother.
Yes.
He's the Macclesfield manager.
Well, I knew he had a brother that played.
Yeah, is it John Rooney, I think his name is?
I can't remember his name. I knew he had a brother that played lower league football.
So he was playing for Macclesfield.
Right.
But now since Robbie Savage has gone to Forest Green as manager, he is now the manager of Macclesfield. So maybe he'll make a good job of it as a manager. Not to say that Wayne Rooney can't, but at this present moment, he's the one in management. Interesting. Right, let's talk F1, shall we? As the Hungarian Grand Prix takes place today, Charles Leclerc stunned McLaren's Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris with Ferrari's first pole position of the season then at the Hungaroring. Leclerc pipped Piastri by 0.026 seconds to upset McLaren, who were expected to lock out the front row and dominate qualifying. And not all smiles, though, for Ferrari. Very, very different circumstances when it comes to Lewis Hamilton. His wretched qualifying form has continued as he was eliminated in the second round of qualifying. It means he'll start in 12th. And it's fair to say he is not happy with his performance. He puts it all on him. Let's say that again. Puts it all on himself. And this is what he's had to say.
What happened in quali?
I'm just useless.
So say again?
I'm just useless.
So that is it obviously the
Yeah, clearly it is.
What?
It's me every time. There's nothing positive.
Yeah, I mean, he is not in a good place as things stand. But joining us to talk about F1 and the current situation of it all is F1 Forbes contributor Kanza Maktoum. Kanza, hello. How are you today?
Kanza.
Hi, I'm good, thank you. How are you guys?
Yeah, very, very well, thank you. I mean, fascinating comments from Lewis Hamilton, calling himself useless with his car struggling for pace. But he says it's really nothing to do with the car, it's all on himself.
Really disappointing to see. I mean, he's an 8-time world champion, so to hear him be that hard on himself, putting all the blame on himself, it's quite disappointing as well. He's had a chaotic weekend this week. He had a pretty tough weekend last week as well. Quali was poor. And then in the race, it was all about damage limitation. He managed to make a good strategy call last weekend where he was the first one to pit when the conditions changed. And that is all testament to his experience. But of course, it's been kind of damage limitation almost every race this season. And it's probably going to be like that today as well. Like yesterday, in all of the practices, he's been struggling. It's very clear. He's been locking up. He cut the chicane twice. So it's, you can see that he's not very comfortable in the car. But at the end of the day, Lewis Hamilton being a 7-time world champion, he's a champion in all of the eras that he's raced in. So I think that if he has this year to really understand the car under him, next year when the regulations changed, surely he must be back to his form again.
Cancer, it's a really strange one because Charles Leclerc is obviously, he's got pole position. He's the Ferrari driver as well. So him doing so poorly, yet Leclerc is not. He's doing well.
Yeah, it's honestly really surprising, even for Leclerc himself. He came into this weekend saying that he was, it's not a track that he's entirely comfortable with, and that, he doesn't really do so well on this track. And then he went straight and put the car onto pole. He came in saying that he was also confused. I think what's important is that during the last session of qualifying, the conditions changed drastically. So the track temperature decreased, and that's when we saw the McLarens kind of slow down, and we saw Mercedes and Ferrari kind of pick up. Lewis wasn't in that fight when the conditions changed. He didn't make it out of Q2, so we can't really tell where he would have matched up if he did actually make it into Q3.
Yeah, really interesting comments as well, as you say, from Leclerc, who says, after securing pole, and he was surprised because it was over the radio that he was obviously told that he'd secured pole, and he was like, I have no words. It's probably one of the best pole positions I've ever had because I did not expect that. So it's weirdly, in a way, you feel like both drivers are a bit like, I don't really know what's going on with us and our cars, etc. Cancer.
Yeah. I feel like this season has been more of trying to understand the car, because almost every race that they come out of, they're like, oh, if they get a good result, they accept it, but then they're like, okay, now we need to figure out how we got that result. It's no longer like we got it because of something. That's very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Max Verstappen as well. I mean, it feels like it's a transitional season because he's confirmed that he'll stay with Red Bull next season as well because, that's where his future lies for now. It feels like there's a lot going on in motor racing, behind the scenes. Has this been a transitional season in some way?
Yeah, it definitely has. I think it's been a transitional season, but I think it's also been happening for the last 2 years, I would say. There have been several top Red Bull personnel leaving the team. We have like Jonathan Wheatley, for instance, who went to Sauber. He's now the team principal of Sauber. Adrian Newey, who is regarded as one of the greatest, if not the greatest car designer in Formula One history, he also left Red Bull for Aston Martin. So you see these top personnel leaving, and most recently we had Christian Horner, who left. He was a team boss for almost 20 years. He saw the whole team. He helped build this team up. So big changes for the team. So I think for them to have Max right now, it's become like more of a stable force for them, like having that confirmed. He's also very intent on improving the car for next year. So there is an intent to continue right now. So it's been a transitional season.
Yeah, it's all good for McLaren though. They are leading the way when it comes to the constructors, and both their drivers very much in the race to win the Drivers' Championship as well. It's Piastri who starts on the front row, along with Leclerc, and Lando Norris just behind him in third. Looking at this race and what you know of the history of it, what can we expect today with these two challenging, as I mentioned?
It's very different from last year. Like the McLaren that we see this year is very different from last year. Yes, they might have won the constructors, but there's something about the team dynamics that's different. If we look to last year's Hungarian Grand Prix, Oscar Piastri took the win in quite a bittersweet way. He was in first position and Lando Norris was right behind him, but then the team undercut him with Lando Norris, which means that Lando then came onto track after pitting before Piastri, which is usually not what happens. So then they had to do this very awkward situation where they had to ask Lando to let Piastri pass in the whole papaya rules thing. Now they're race car drivers. They don't really want to let their teammate or anyone pass. So this was very, very awkward for both of them. And it led to like Oscar Piastri's first victory, but it's also very, very bittersweet. Now that we see this year is kind of like a different McLaren. They're really letting their drivers race it out. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that they have the gap between P2. They have two drivers. Like it's like the competition is between themselves. So I think that's why they're letting them race it out themselves on track, but as long as they keep it clean, of course. In the grand scheme of things, there's 16 points between Piastri and Lando Norris right now. So it is very, very tight. Obviously, summer's coming up. Everyone wants to win the last race or do their best in the last race so that they can go into the summer on a high. Definitely, this can be a big turning point. This race, particularly in the entire championship standing as a whole.
I mean, it's always fascinating when you've got two drivers in this position where they're both battling it out. Normally we talk about a lead driver and then a number two that who, as you say, Kanza, will have to follow team orders. But it's great that McLaren are just allowing them to both just do what they want to do to see who will end up being that champion.
Yeah, it's great for us as well as fans just watching that.
Yeah, exactly. Kanza, appreciate you joining us today. Thank you.
Thanks, Kanza.
Thank you so much.
That is Kanza Maktoum, the Forbes F1 reporter, joining us there. The Hungarian Grand Prix then taking place a little bit later on. Tom Clayton will bring you regular updates from the Hungaroring as well.
How mad is that story? Lewis Hamilton saying he's useless.
Oh.
And obviously, I think he's got next season, hasn't he? Booked in with Ferrari. But, someone who's been so successful, Nat.
Yeah, well, he even
called himself out.
Yeah, and he even sort of said, he obviously doesn't mean it, but he was kind of saying, maybe they should look to change the drive. They're not going to do that because I'm sure they fully expect that he might come good. Obviously not this season, but maybe, as Kanza was saying, with another year under his belt, okay, there are regulation changes to
That's every year, isn't it?
Well,
racing.
to see what happens next. But at least he'll have that year under his belt. But it really has not delivered at all what they were hoping. So, yeah, a bit of a disappointment. And well, I quite like.
I don't think he's beaten Leclerc in any race, has he? I don't think he's finished in front of him in any.
Probably not. No, I don't know off the top of my head. But
who's obviously the number one at Ferrari at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, in the standings. I mean, Lewis has not even had a podium finish, whereas Leclerc has. So, yeah, you're absolutely right. The standings are 5th and 6th, respectively, with Leclerc 5th and Hamilton 6th in the Drivers' Championship. So, overall, hasn't been the move that he would have liked, Lewis Hamilton, but we will see what happens. Right. On the way, we're going to turn our attentions to the Scottish Premiership. That has begun this weekend. Cammy Bell, the former Rangers goalkeeper, will be with us.
$10K for Coldplay.
Good morning, this is the Weekend Sports Breakfast. It is Tony Cascarino, the former Republic of Ireland striker, who is with me, Natalie Sawyer. And you might want a bit of pen and paper if you got it handy, because time is running out to enter a huge prize to win 10 grand, as well as a VIP night out at Coldplay at Wembley Stadium later this month. We are giving you the chance to win 6 tickets in a private box with your mates for August the 22nd. You'll have full hospitality, and we're chucking in 10 grand spending money as well, completely tax free. But it ends tomorrow. Here's how you enter. It's for 18 and over, UK excluding Northern Ireland. Text the word WIN to 83338. That by 11 p.m. tomorrow night. And that's it. You'll be entered into the draw. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You must have the bill payer's permission. And if you've got a pen and paper handy, you can post your name and number to Coldplay Competition, PO Box 3190, Colchester, CO2 8GP. And that has to arrive by 5 p.m. on the 7th of August. This is a talkSPORT limited promotion run on talkSPORT, Talk and Virgin Radio UK stations. Full T's and C's can be found at talksport.com. Okay, the Scottish Premiership is underway. 3 games taking place today, including Celtic, who are taking on St Mirren. Yesterday, Kilmarnock and Livingston drew 2-2, and Rangers, under their new manager Russell Martin, suffered late heartbreak at Motherwell as the hosts scored late on to secure a draw. And Martin was scathing of his side's first league game, it's fair to say. Joining us then to discuss it all, it is former Rangers goalkeeper Cammy Bell. Cammy, how are you doing today? Thank you for being with us.
Morning, guys. You okay?
Yeah, we're good, Cammy.
Very, very well.
Yeah, I don't think there's anywhere else to start. Is your former club, Rangers, obviously conceding a late goal, Cammy, to Motherwell, and then the criticism from Russell Martin afterwards. What did you make of all of that?
Yeah, listen, it was a really disappointing afternoon for Rangers and the Rangers fans that went there. Certainly in hope to start the season well. We know previously Rangers haven't started the season well. They started the season on the back foot and not got results they wanted. So, yeah, it was really disappointing, especially the way the game went. Rangers weren't great. They weren't great, and Russell Martin identified that after the game. But again, you felt as if they'd just done enough to get over the line. They were in the last 10 minutes of the game, and I think it was 87 minutes before Motherwell scored. So, yeah, you just kind of thought they'll limp over the line here, and yes, we get the 3 points and they move on because they've got these big European games in the weekend. But no, it's really disappointing. I wasn't surprised when Russell Martin singled out, certainly, he didn't name names, but again, he mentioned certain players that he wasn't happy with, and he alluded to making changes for the European game coming up midweek.
Well, the lineup, that was the line I was going to use, Cammy, with, he says we had 2 men on the pitch today who just wanted to do what they wanted to do. When you want to just jog around, and that's what you do, and no more, basically, and not to name them was the surprise, because privately he might have in the dressing room, because we know we've been in dressing rooms where a manager will just point to you and say, well, what are you doing today? What was you jogging around for? When I'm asking you to close down, you're not doing it. So in the dressing room, I'm sure he would have called them out.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100% for me. He'll absolutely have called them out. I think we'll find out midweek as well, because I don't think they'll play. Yeah. I think the individuals that he has called out won't start the game on Tuesday night. So, yeah, listen, it's probably what the Rangers fans wanted to hear. They've heard Philippe Clement last season, spinning them a lot of different stories and telling them something that they've not seen. Rangers fans aren't silly. They watch the game, they're there, they support the club, and they want honesty. And I think it was honest from Russell Martin that, listen, you can speak about tactics, you can speak about philosophies, the way you want to play, but ultimately, if you don't run hard enough, if you don't work hard enough, then you won't get the rewards. And that was his message last night, certainly to the players and to the fans, that it wasn't good enough and he wasn't accepting it.
I mean, when you look at the recent history as well in the Scottish Premiership, Rangers that just have been off it, haven't they? Celtic have been so dominant of late. When he's talking about egos, and he's very new to this Rangers side, but do you think he has a point that maybe there has been a cultural problem at Rangers for a little while? We've seen it here in England with Manchester United. Ruben Amorim has been widely spoken about issues behind the scenes. Do you think there have been a lot of issues behind the scenes at Rangers?
Yeah, I think there has been a cultural issue, and I think that comes down to a mentality. He mentioned that in his interview as well, was that they need to have the correct mentality. And Rangers is all about winning. Going to Motherwell, yes, it's a difficult game, the first game of the season. They've had a midweek game against Panathinaikos they had to navigate their way through, which was fantastic. They didn't play brilliant over the 2 legs, but they got themselves through that Champions League qualifier. So you go to Motherwell, you need to win these games. You need to get off to a good start. So the mentality thing, I think, certainly what he mentioned after the game for me is definitely there. And it's true within the club. He mentioned that it needs to get sorted quickly and rectified quickly, because it's not good enough and the Rangers fans won't stand for it. So, yeah, it was really an interesting interview because he also mentioned, listen, if these guys don't change, they won't come along the journey with me. So, again, he's quite ruthless with regards to talking about moving players on if they're not going to come on the journey that he wants to create.
And when I joined Celtic, Cammy, back in 91, and Rangers were dominating, winning, trophy after trophy, leagues. And I felt immediately that the pressure was on Celtic to rebound. And from a fan's perspective, you cannot lose to Rangers. It was just, and it's vice versa. It's exactly the same for Rangers, where the Rangers supporter feels now is, we cannot keep coming second to Celtic. That just stays within them 2 clubs. That's the great thing about this big battle in Glasgow in the Scottish SPL.
Yeah, listen, that's what Glasgow's all about. 2 teams that absolutely demand winning. And again, seconds, you might as well be last. That's where they see it. And the Rangers and Celtic fans just demand winning trophies. Rangers have been far off it for far too long now. They've not won enough trophies. And the frustration's building. Again, over the summer, there was this new takeover, which excited the fans. The new manager came in. There was certainly a little bit of grumbles when Russell Martin got appointed. But again, it was up to him to then flip it and turn it and make sure that the fans got behind him. he did that during the week against Panathinaikos, got 2 really good results. Obviously, a 2-0 home win to take the tie over to Athens midweek, and then they got the draw they needed to. So it was job done. But then you turn up to Motherwell, you end up with a draw, and that negativity is already set in for the Rangers fans, and they're already a little bit frustrated.
Yeah. Cammy, tell us, obviously Russell Martin was criticised in England for his insistence of playing a certain way with Southampton. That stayed with him, and he couldn't really get away with it. And he battled back. He would double down on everything he said about the way he wanted to play football. Have you seen that style being implemented at Rangers, where it is literally possession based from everywhere, from the keeper to how they play out from the back?
Yeah, he certainly implemented that, and again, I think he's had a little bit of certainly a few problems along the way already, because I don't think some of the players at Rangers are good enough to play that style of football yet, and that's been perfectly honest. That I think it's asking too much of some of them. Yes, he's got a number of players in. He still probably needs 4 or 5 transfers in the door before the window closes, but he's certainly got that style of playing out from the back. Jack Butland started with passing from the back, so it is the style that he likes. Whether it's helped Rangers so far, I think Rangers don't have the players. It's risk and reward. There's a huge amount of risk. They lost the ball a lot in their own half yesterday, which invited Motherwell on, which gave them momentum, because Rangers started the game well. They got that goal after 14 minutes from James Tavernier from a header. But then, again, these moments where they're playing out from the back and it's not working, Motherwell are stealing the ball high up the pitch, it allows them to build momentum, it allows them to build belief. And certainly that's what happened yesterday. So, yeah, I think he just needs to be a little bit careful that you can't have just plan A. You've got to have a plan B as well.
Yeah, and of course they're a couple of games away, potentially, from securing their spot in the Champions League. But let's talk about Celtic, shall we? Because they're in action today as they take on St Mirren in their opening Premiership game. When you look at Celtic and the business that they've done perhaps this summer, I mean, it's a bit of a silly question, really, but is it all eyes on them to win the title again?
Yeah, it is all eyes on them, but again, I wouldn't say everything's rosy over at Celtic as well. Brendan Rodgers done his press conference on Friday, and again, he had a little dig at the board for not spending enough money. They've lost Nicholas Kuhn, who was a big player. He's moved on during the summer, so again, he's a little bit frustrated. I can see frustration setting in on him, and it's probably nothing really to do with the domestic side of football, because I think Celtic navigate their way through that perfectly well, and I expect them to do that again this year, just purely where Rangers are. I think it's going to take Rangers that transitional year to get up to speed with Celtic, so expect them to be domestically dominant. But again, he's looking to try and progress in the Champions League. He knows how important the Champions League is to him and Celtic as a football club, so I think there's a little bit of frustration there between him and the board and not getting the players that he identified and wanted in the club.
Interesting season ahead.
Yeah,
then,
it is. I look. It's a great thing to have Rangers and Celtic, battling away and being competitive. But as what we've just talked about there with Cammy, that Rangers have been so far off it and Celtic have been so dominant. That's not good for Scottish football.
Is there any other team, Cammy, that we should be looking out for that could be a bit of a surprise?
Yeah, listen, I think Hearts will have a really good season this season. Yes, Hearts are always up there, but they've changed manager. They've got Derek McInnes, who knows the Scottish game really well. Managed Aberdeen, obviously Kilmarnock recently, and been successful there. Got them into Europe. He's got a huge budget up there now. Again, they've got new investment in the club, so they're certainly a club that I think could start to get much closer to Celtic and Rangers. Especially, they've not got European football this year, and I think that'll help them along the way domestically.
Yeah.
Just one quick one, Cammy.
Yep.
Is there a club in the SPL, like we watch what Brighton do, what Brentford do, teams that have overachieved. Is there a side that you feel like is going against the grain of what Scottish football's about, but are being successful in their way?
Yeah, I would certainly identify St Mirren. Over the last 3 seasons, they've made the top 6, and St Mirren are a small club, Paisley based just outside Glasgow, but again, don't have a great budget. They've got a really well-run club. They've got a great fan base now, purely because they're winning games, are being successful. But again, just purely on budgets and the way that Stephen Robinson, the manager, sets his team out, I think they overachieve year in, year out at this moment in time.
Good to hear. Yeah,
Cammy, thank you for being with us.
Thanks, Cammy.
Thank you, guys.
Great to have you as Cammy Bell there, the former Rangers goalkeeper, just bringing us up to speed with the latest in Scotland.
you know, like we talk about teams overachieving down here, we see it. And then look, they have way more money than the clubs have in Scotland. But to hear that a club in Scotland, or like we might hear Auxerre in France, or Lorient, all these small clubs, or many other countries that suddenly appear and do well, they've not really had that in the SPL. And so it's nice to hear some Mirren of that club for achieving top six of the SPL was really, really good for them.
Yeah, very much so. We will bring you live reports and the updates from the games that are taking place today in the Scottish Premiership. Falkirk against Dundee United is a 2 o'clock kickoff. 3 o'clock sees Dundee face Hibernian, and then later Celtic host St Mirren. That one kicking off at 4:30. And Paul Mitchell, our Scottish correspondent, will give you reports on those. Right, on the way next then, we're going to bring you the latest transfer news of Ben Jacobs.
Knows there are 20 managers in the Premier League, yeah? Well, actually, no. Around 3/4 of them are not managers. The terms manager and head coach are often used interchangeably to describe Premier League bosses, but they're actually two different jobs. So let's explain how and why. For years, fans referred to Mikel Arteta as Arsenal's manager, but I'm afraid technically...
I don't think so, no.
From his first day on the job, he was the Gunners' head coach. Let's pick a random moment in time, February 2025. Only 6 Premier League bosses actually held the official title of manager rather than head coach. Man City's Pep Guardiola, David Moyes of Everton, Ipswich boss Kieran McKenna, Southampton's Ivan Juric, Oliver Glasner at Crystal Palace and Leicester's Ruud van Nistelrooy were the only actual managers of their respective teams. Everyone else? That's right, head coach, including Ruben Amorim at Man United. He took over from Erik ten Hag, a man who had held the title of manager. Might come as a surprise that Amorim's appointment marked the first time ever that Man United had a head coach instead of a manager. But to understand why they made that decision, you also have to get what the difference is between a head coach and a manager. A manager's got a huge range of responsibilities. They're not just in charge of training and player lineups, they're also heavily involved in player sales and transfers. Critical stuff. But a head coach's role is far more focused on team training and performance on the pitch. So whereas Ten Hag was highly involved with decisions around transfers during his tenure, the intention was that Amorim wouldn't be, at least not on the same level. And as the sporting structure at Man United changed under Sir Jim Ratcliffe, people like Sir Dave Brailsford took charge of transfers instead. How all those roles play out in practice may be slightly different at different clubs though. On the other hand, the contracts of actual managers like Pep or Moyes had no limits on their job role and their involvement with transfers and contracts. But those guys are actually in the minority now, and it's a change that's happened pretty quickly. In 2019, there were only 6 head coaches in the Premier League, but by 2025, there were 14. A clear indication that more and more clubs are moving towards a model where the guy in charge is actually only really in charge on the pitch. And the way things are going, it might not be long before all 20 clubs have got head coaches, and the job position of football manager in the top flight is no more.
This is the Weekend Sports Breakfast. We're live on your radio, YouTube and smart TV. I'm Natalie Sawyer, and with me it is the former Gillingham striker, Tony Cascarino.
Good morning.
The British and Irish Lions, well, they won the series, didn't they, against the Wallabies, but hopes of a whitewash didn't materialise in Sydney yesterday as they lost 22-12 to Australia. Head coach Andy Farrell, though, is still immensely proud of what his team have accomplished.
There's obviously going to be frustration there because, like we've said all along, that we wanted to win every game, and rightly so. On reflection, tonight and tomorrow, we'll be unbelievably proud of what we achieved.
And he is hoping, perhaps, to lead the Lions in 2029 when they tour New Zealand. Charles Leclerc gave Ferrari their first pole position of the season at the Hungarian Grand Prix. talkSPORT reporter Tom Clayton will bring us live updates from the race from 2.
Well, as qualifying sessions go at the Hungarian Grand Prix, it was about as close as you could have got. The top 4 separated by less than a tenth of a second. This time last year, Oscar Piastri claimed his very first Grand Prix victory at the Hungarian Grand Prix. Can he jump back into the lead of the race, take the win and extend his lead at the top of the championship? Find out at 2 o'clock. We'll have live updates on talkSPORT.
And the EFL is well and truly underway. We had 22 games played yesterday, 51 goals scored as well. And there's more to come this weekend. We've got Stockport against Bolton live on talkSPORT 2 this afternoon. And Phil Brown will be joining us a little bit later on to discuss that and plenty more as well. That'll be fun.
Yeah, it feels good. I mean, I can remember. Do you remember they played in the football match for the talkSPORT?
You were there. I wasn't there. Yeah.
I couldn't believe how fit Phil was.
Really?
He was getting around the pitch. I mean, Phil's about 64, 65. He was getting around the pitch. He looked great. He all suntanned up. I mean, he's always been suntanned up, hasn't he? He's got the perfect name. You know,
yes, I think we're all thinking it as soon as you said it.
Tanned up.
Yes. Yeah, lovely man.
Yeah.
Funny, so as we were just saying there, the first game of the EFL season being played over this weekend. When you go back to your days of that first game, what was it like? Because you have pre-season. We talk about pre-season all the time, and you're trying to get as far as close as you can to being peak fitness levels for the first, for the season. But how close are you to those levels when it goes into that first game? You're still trying to fine-tune everything.
Different times that, because sometimes, I mean, I had broken pre-seasons that I then felt I was behind the 8 ball, really. I was behind everybody else because of injury, not quite spot on. Then you'd be fighting, battling to try and get ready for the first game of the season. It's very different. When I went to Marseille, I went from the World Cup being injured. So I was at 94 World Cup, came back home, trained on my own, for about 2 or 3 weeks. I was over my calf injury, but then I went straight down to Marseille, and they asked me to play before I signed. Right, so I've said I'm not doing that. I might get injured. Well, also I weren't in great shape. I've done my own training, but I weren't in in a position to go, yeah, I'm absolutely flying. I'm ready to go and play a game. I said, no, I've come here. If we were going to do the deal, I'll sign. So they eventually agreed to sign. I then went straight from the signing at the Bureau in Marseille to the football match and played. And I honestly I felt so behind the Marseille players. But in a 2 to 3 week period of working hard with a personal trainer at Marseille, because they gave me extra training, I got into really good shape. It was, like you can get out of shape really quickly. You know what I'm saying? Obviously, if you're an athlete and you're training, small margins of your fitness levels, they are important. But I got into shape really quickly over that period. So it was the same as when you're out of shape. You can go from being in good shape and being out of shape within like 10 days.
Yeah.
Or not feeling like you should do. It happened to me in the reverse, and I got off to a flying start there. But in general, I mean, again, going back to Celtic, and we were talking earlier about Rangers and Celtic. When I joined Celtic, I had a really bad pre-season where I was staying. I didn't train with the Villa team like they were doing because I was speaking to Southampton, and I was also negotiating with Celtic. And I went up to Celtic, and my playing weight was 14 stone. Really, when I was at my best, it was 14, 13, 12. I joined Celtic, I got to 14.6. And it was purely because I hadn't done the hard graft. And I need him. I was someone who needed really hard training. When I was getting pushed, I saw because as big lads, you can look cumbersome, awkward, ungainly when you're slightly out of condition, where the smaller lads who are, might put on a pound or two, they don't. They're agile and get around the pitch. So all my pre-seasons were very different. But the main feature, I had a good pre-season. I generally had a good season.
Yeah, just to say, we're struggling to get hold of Ben Jacobs, unfortunately. So
you've had to listen to me waffle.
I know.
So annoying.
When you're tired, it's quite useful, actually. No, not at all. I want to talk about West Ham, actually, because we previously were saying it felt like they were being a bit quiet in the window, but recently they've signed Callum Wilson.
Yeah.
This off the back of a free transfer. And he was asked, Graham Potter, the West Ham manager, of course, about Mikel Antonio, what was happening with him.
Yeah.
He is out of contract. Last month, the club had said at that stage there was no formal decision on whether or not they were going to look to do something about that. When asked about the situation of Mikel Antonio, Potter said simply, when asked, is he going to be part of your plans? No. So Mikel Antonio obviously is looking elsewhere. And they did say in a statement as well that they were going to help do their best to support him as he looks to resume playing at the highest level. And as we all know, he experienced that horrific car crash in December, and is hence why they're saying they're doing their best to help him recover and then try and find a new club for him as well. But Callum Wilson, let's talk about him and what you make of that decision for West Ham to sign him.
I like him when he's fit.
Yeah, that's the
problem. I like him when he's fit.
But that's the problem. Yeah, the fitness.
It has been a problem for him. He's had too many niggles over the course of his career. And by the way, he's had two really bad injuries. He had cruciate twice.
Yeah,
ACL. He done them. He recovered from them. But his main problem in recent years has been them little niggles. I really like Callum Wilson. I think he's a powerful, leads the line really well. He's got an eye for a goal. He's a good finisher. He always does the good things in football. You just need to get him on the pitch as much as they can. Nicholas Fulcrew has to be good for West Ham this year. Has to be. Because if West Ham are going to have any sort of season, he has to be playing a lot of games and also leading that line to, obviously, they've lost Kudos, which is a big loss, but Bowen is a big player they've kept so far. He's a really good player, Jarrod Bowen. We know that. But he's got to forge that relationship with Bowen as well. I saw signs at the end of last season where he looked like he was sort of regaining his fitness and being ready. This year, he started last year, full crew, he was injured nearly all the time at the start of last season.
Yeah.
And West Ham fans absolutely know how important he will be for them this season. And their style of play, I think that's one of the things that I found hard to watch. I went to probably 4 games in the second half of the season at the London Stadium. I didn't feel like West Ham, who are always going to get the identity of the way they play, I didn't see a very entertaining way of playing at all.
No. You mentioned, obviously, the reasons why you like Callum Wilson as a striker, but more recently they had Danny Ings, similar age.
Yeah.
I think, in fact, the same age, 33. What do you think is the reason they would have gone for, and I'm only asking this just because I actually did see people saying, so they got rid of Danny Ings and they've replaced him with another 33-year-old striker. Why would they not give another contract to Danny Ings as opposed to signing Callum Wilson, do you think?
Sometimes the managers don't fancy you as a player.
Right.
I think it's quite basic. The manager would have got the call. Do we keep Danny Ings? No, need to move on. I had that with Ron Atkinson at Villa. Came in a pre-season. He turned around and he said to me, I'm bringing in Big Cyril, Big Cyril Regis. He said, we've got a couple of offers for you. We'll let you go. And, and that was it. That's what happens in football. For me, this is Graham Potter making a call. No, we don't need Danny Ings. We're going to move on. And, and as Danny Ings, I just have to take it on the chin that sometimes that happens in football.
He's been linked, I saw, with Middlesbrough. I'm not sure if that's gone through yet, but he's certainly been linked.
Well, how old is Danny now?
33. They're both 33.
31, 32. Yeah.
No,
okay, 33, yeah. No, I'm thinking in my head.
31, 32? No, he's 33. Yeah. 31, 32. No, he's 33. Just quickly then, with West Ham, they opened the season with a trip to the Stadium of Light, followed by a home game with Chelsea. Then they got Forest away, and then a couple of London derbies at home, Tottenham and Palace. Your thoughts on West Ham coming into this new season? You sort of alluded to it. They were quite underwhelming last season under Graham Potter. So what do you expect this time around?
Quite pessimistic.
Are you?
Yeah. I don't... there's nothing
based on just...
Well, what I watched, I saw them probably over the course of the season half a dozen times. Like I said earlier, 4 times at the back end of the season. Didn't particularly like what I was watching. Thought they were quite too over pragmatic.
Yeah.
Not much punch in their team. No, I think they have to get other bodies in. They have to get some transfers in that are going to lift and inspire what they've already got. Because I think the one big plus, and I said it earlier, is Jarrod Bowen. That's so far him staying is Jarrod Bowen is a big player for them. Really big player.
And when you say pessimistic, are you saying relegation fight?
I can't see anything else.
Okay.
At the moment, as they stand today, I don't look at West Ham and think mid-table. I think there's a lot better teams than you around.
Okay, like I say, Saturday, the 16th of August is when they kick off their campaign with a trip to Sunderland. Right, when we return, we'll bring you the latest odds from Coral. Thank you very much for tuning into the Weekend Sports Breakfast this Sunday morning with a man that once got 2 assists in an FA Cup semi-final. That's right. It's Tony Cascarino, who is with me, Natalie Sawyer. And Jill, thank you very much. Regular listener, regular contributor as well. She's messaged in to saying, not feeling so good. So for the first time in a long time, having a lion listening to talkSPORT, would love a wee mention. There you go, Jill. I hope you feel better. Nothing worse when you don't feel well, is there?
No.
You know. But stay in bed, stay in the warm under the duvet, have a lie-in. I tell you what, with it being the summer holidays, Cass, and my son is currently away, so it's just me and the dog. And he does, as a lot of dogs do, or pets, they wake you up early. And what I do is I let him out of his crate, and then I'm like, off you pop, I'm going to get back into bed. I've been loving it. It's great. I'm just set an alarm in the week for the school run and all that sort of stuff. Oh, it's pleasant. It's very nice. So, yeah, enjoy that, Jill, and hope you feel better soon. Right, yeah? Do you like a lie? You don't really lie in, do you?
No, I don't. No, I'm not a big sleeper. No. I never have been.
But I'm a night owl, you see. I'd rather stay up late and then obviously go like 1, 2 o'clock is the time. But I can't now because obviously when you're always tired with this show and also the school run, so you can't stay up late. But if I can, I will.
You know my record? Not sleeping.
Yes. Well, you were in the casino.
In Vegas, 3 days without sleep.
Madness.
Terrible, isn't it?
Yeah.
Didn't feel great at the end of it.
No, I'm sure you didn't. Were you not like
yes,
sort of like that?
The worst. I tell you what, the second to the third day was unbelievable because like when you sometimes when you have a drink you sober up and you know, honestly it was like being drunk second time. I really just was all over the place. My thinking, it was I was playing poker for basically nearly 3 days. Well, say nearly 3 days.
That's not sensible.
No. I wouldn't recommend it.
I'm glad you've matured. It's time for the latest odds from Coral.
The Coral Daily Download on talkSPORT with Coral. We're here for the fans this season. 18 plus gambleaware.org.
Simon Clare, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Well, I've had a lovely sleep, I must say.
I'm so jealous.
The idea of going without 1 night's sleep is bad enough, let alone 3, Cass. Jeez.
No, I know. It's only once. I only did it once, Simon, but you probably nodded off while we were talking about it, to be fair.
Oh, God, yeah. I was drifting off.
Excuse me, it was a very entertaining conversation. Let's move on, shall we? Let's talk about the Oval and the 5th Test, where England are looking to win it and ensure the series at the same time. Set a run target of 374, couple of days to do it as well, Simon. So how are the odds looking for this?
Well, listen, I think it's great that this what's been a brilliant series has actually gone down to the last Test match, the last innings, and set up beautifully, really. I mean, that second last ball last night when Crawley was bowled by Siraj, a bit of a blow for England. I think they'd love to have gone in, unbeaten, obviously, overnight. But the odds are incredible, really. When you think that this would be the second biggest run chase England have ever done in history, and yet they're only 7-4 to do it, and 1-2 India to win. Now, sometimes odds, you stare at them and you just know they're wrong. Does that make sense? Like England are priced on the way they're playing now, the fact that they could do it, where once you would have thought no chance. And yet it feels it should be still a tall order.
No.
And India are 1-2, when I feel like they should win this 9 times out of 10. Now, I could be completely wrong, and I don't want to lead anyone listening down the garden path. But what do you think, Cass?
I mean, Simon, you probably wouldn't know this answer, but before that last wicket went, I'm pretty sure it'd have been even Stevens.
Yeah.
That one ball changed the odds completely.
Yeah. I think you're probably right, but it still just feels an enormous ask. You know, I know they've got plenty of time. You're right, Nat. I mean, there is a bit of rain forecast over the 2 days, but I think the forecast has improved. So I think it feels like it's going to be the draw's out of the equation. It's 25-1. I just feel like if England were to do this incredible run chase, it feels like it should be a real long shot. Do you know what I mean? It's only 7-4. I couldn't back him at 7-4, put it that way. 1-2. I'm not really an odds-on backer. But I feel the law of averages says India should win this unless it's a Herculean effort by the England batsman.
Yeah.
But history will say whether I was right or wrong in the next 48 hours.
It's one of those test series now, or certainly final tests, that you're thinking, all you have to just don't be crazy, don't do any silly shots, but this is Bazball that we're talking about. That's what they want to do. They want to deliver those incredible moments and the punchiness of Brendan McCullum's England team. But like we say, they've got 2 days. You could bat it out, but you just got to be sensible. But they're not going to do it. They're not going to do it.
They won't, and I get it in a way, because there's an element as well that the way they play it so aggressive that you can almost sort of bash the opposition bowlers into submission, and I think that's probably what they're trying to do. There's no Bumrah. I mean, Siraj is obviously going to carry a lot of the bowling, and he's been brilliant all series as well. But look, I imagine the first couple of hours today will be critical. If England get through that and start to get up, beyond 100 with no loss of wicket, I think suddenly those odds will shorten, and I'll be thinking, thank God I haven't backed India at 1-2. But we'll see. We'll see. It's going to be a fantastic day's cricket anyway.
Well, we had League One and League Two started yesterday. We've got the Championship coming up this weekend. So, Simon, some odds of the teams that are going to be, title favourites?
Yeah, listen, I'll declare an interest. Corolla, the betting partner of Birmingham City. We've joined the Tom Wagner and the Tom Brady
starstruck.
But look, it's going to be great fun. I'm actually going on Friday night to Birmingham Ipswich. I think Ed Sheeran's going to be in the house, so I'll be probably somewhere far less important. But it's going to be a great game, great way to start the season with Ipswich, the 3-1 favourites for the Championship. Birmingham, a short price third favourites at 6-1, with just Southampton in between them at 5-1. They're the front three in the betting, and then it's 8 Sheffield United and the likes of Coventry and Leicester at double figure odds. So I'm looking forward to it. It's such an incredible division, the Championship, isn't it? And sometimes you look at there'll be sides at the prominent end of the betting who will actually have a more difficult season than you think. Do you have any fancies, Nat, Cass, at this stage for the Championship? Who do you think might win the title?
Well, I think Sheffield United are interested at 8-1 because they had an amazing season last year, and I know that certain players have left. Brewster has left, and I think what's his name, Diaz, who went back to Southampton, Ben Diaz.
Ben Burton Diaz.
He's gone back to Southampton. It's interesting that Wrexham and Birmingham have both got promoted among the favourites.
Yeah.
That's just on spending alone, isn't it? I think Wrexham are still going to be well short from what they had as a League One team. The Championship's a far bigger challenge.
Yeah.
Have you been watching the Birmingham documentary?
No. Have you watched it?
It's worth watching.
Is it?
Yes.
How many episodes are there?
Well, that's a good question. I actually don't know, but I mean, I'm just finished episode 2, and they're just in the Chris Davies era, so I can't imagine there's many more. It must be just 3. Maybe or 4,
whenever I start to watch those, I binge watch them. You just talk about staying up late at night. If I end up watching the first episode like 10:30, the next thing I know it's 3 in the morning.
That's the problem, Simon. I finished the second episode at 11:45 last night. I was like, I better go to bed. But it is really good. It's just interesting. It's worth watching.
That,
Just quickly, the F1 and the Hungarian Grand Prix.
Yeah, no, I heard you chatting about it earlier. I mean, it is fascinating. I mean, Piastri and Norris actually favourites. Piastri 10-11 favourite to win the race. He won it last year. 7-4 Norris. Leclerc is on pole, is the third favourite at 7-2. It's looked between the three of them. Russell's a 22-1 chance. Lewis Hamilton, who says he's useless, well, he's 2-9 to get a top 10 finish from his. I think he's starting in 12th. But yeah, I don't know if there's much rain around. But yeah, should be a fantastic afternoon's Formula One action. And Norris and Piastri are battling out the world championship. I'd love to see Norris become world champion. He's 2-1 to win the title, but Piastri is 16 points clear and is the favourite at 4-7. So plenty to watch. There's some good racing at Dusseldorf and Deauville, where the Godolphin teams and Aidan O'Brien teams are in action, and that's all on there. That's all on Racing TV and
Deauville
racing this afternoon. Deauville, have you ever been to Deauville?
Yeah, Trouville and Deauville are next to each other. Yeah, there was a poker competition at Trouville.
See, you see, wasn't anything to do with the racing.
Nothing to do with the racing. I've never been to Deauville race because it looks.
It's lovely. Yeah,
exactly.
There's a place you must go, Honfleur.
Okay.
Honfleur, which is not far. Beautiful.
Oh.
Yeah,
it's not too far from there.
You never played football up that part of France, did you?
No. Well, I played against teams there, but I didn't live there.
Yeah.
But I loved going to Honfleur, and then you can go along the coast to Granville, and it's beautiful. Yeah.
We need to go on tour with Cass, a French tour with Cass.
Yeah. No, well, you should. I mean, I should come along too, just for the fun. But so we've had like our TV recommendations, we've had travel recommendations. We bring you everything on this show. Fabulous.
Exactly. A show for everyone.
Simon, enjoy the rest of today, but also enjoy the Birmingham Ipswich game when you go on Friday.
Can't wait.
I bet that's going to be great fun. That was Simon Clare from Coral. It's 18 and over. BeGambleAware.org. Please do gamble responsibly.
The Coral Daily Download on talkSPORT with Coral. We're here for the fans this season. 18 plus gambleaware.org.
10 Sports Breakfast here on talkSPORT. So with Tony Cascarino, who's pretty nifty when it comes to poker, and he's alongside me, Natalie Sawyer, with you until 10. And right now, you're listening into Get Over Yourself by the rock band, the Rosellas. And I'm pleased to say that two of the members are here in the studio with us this morning. We have Drew, the lead singer. We've got Ewan, who is lead guitar. Is that right?
Yeah.
Fabulous. So how are you both, first of all?
Good.
Yeah?
Good. Tired.
Yeah.
Straight from Glasgow last night.
Oh, no way. How did you get...
Man.
Not...
Drove through the night.
Yeah, how long's that take?
Oh, that's proper. That's how it should be.
6.5, 7 hours.
Yeah, something like that.
We were kicking on the back seat. Manager was driving the van, so.
That is a long
I love that though.
That's
how it's meant to be.
Yeah.
You know, when you're starting out. I mean, I know you're not starting out. You've probably been doing it for a long time, but you feel like when you're on the road and being part of something special and putting music out there.
So tell us, why are you in Glasgow? What were you doing up there? Was it yourselves gigging or part of something?
We had a gig. We had 2 gigs actually. So we played at HMV in the afternoon, and then we had a headline show. And then we've driven back for this. But we were in London on Friday, weren't we?
Yeah, we were doing.
So we had an actual gig here on Friday. Up to Glasgow.
So you drove up to... Oh, my goodness.
Not a hotel in sight, man. You know what I mean? Literally just kipping on the van seats.
It keeps the cost low. It's pretty good for that.
It does.
So I'm looking on your sheet, and we always look for influences, and I've seen you've got some amazing ones from the Verve Oasis, Pink Floyd, we just chatted on air about, and big Dave Gilmour fan.
Absolutely, yeah.
Both
of you, obviously. Yeah.
He's a bit more than me.
Yeah.
As you just said there.
Could talk about it for Britain, mate.
Yeah.
Go on and on.
So tell us how the Rosellas came about.
Well, me and him actually met on the train back from a Blossoms gig in about 2018, was it, something like that? Yeah. He ended up being a couple of years above me in high school anyway, but you know, because of the year difference, we hadn't really mixed that much, so we met properly after that gig. And Ollie in the band, he was in my year at high school as well, so we played in bands sort of growing up and that. And we just sort of, from about 2019 onwards, we just sort of started moulding it together, went through a couple of member changes and whatnot, and then we just gigged and wrote relentlessly. Do you know what I mean? And it's just kind of snowballed into what it is now, which ain't a massive snowball. Still gigging, yeah, it's growing, the snowball still, but at least it's not a tiny one.
Well, as we've had on talkSPORT for the last how many months, Nat, with the promotion of Oasis and their big gigs and reunion sort of time, and Manchester feels like the music industry is really in a good position at the moment. You two lads, both from one a City supporter, one a United fan, yeah?
I'm the Red, yeah.
Oh, you're the Red.
I'm the Red,
right.
yeah.
Not so good, but, the music, is always from Liverpool to Manchester and beyond.
Well, Manchester is famous for 2 things, isn't it? It's the football and the music. Yeah. And the music scene in Manchester in general, it's bustling, it's vibrant, you know what I mean? There's so many venues that bands can play, which also in turn means there's a hell of a lot of bands there. Yeah. And to rise above them, you've got to write decent tunes and you've got to be good live, you know.
Yeah. But like you also mentioned, you've got to have the right dynamic of people in your band.
You do.
Yeah, we have gone through a few changes, haven't we? But we've settled on one that really works.
Yeah.
Feeling the strongest we've ever felt at the moment.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? And me and Ewan write the songs, and it's always been that way since the day we met. We were actually laughing the other day. We were playing some old demos in the van, and we found the first tune that we ever wrote. There's no way we're playing it on air, man. But like, you listen back and you think, that's not bad.
There's potential there. Could be reworked a little bit.
My boy's learning the guitar, and he's also learning piano, and I love it. I just love listening. Just, even my young son trying to learn how to play music. I never did that. You played the violin?
Oh, yeah, I did. But I mean, if you gave me one now, I wouldn't. I know, I got to grade 5, but I wouldn't know. Honestly, I've completely forgotten it.
Yeah.
It's not like riding a bike. I don't think I'd remember. Yeah. Oh, I honestly don't think so. I promise you. It's all gone.
I always think with people learning the violin, that's a tough one to start, innit?
Yeah.
Because it's all going to be like...
Oh yeah, and it was. Believe me, maybe I feel sorry for my parents having to listen to it. But I did get up to grade 5. But yeah, it's if you can learn an instrument, it's just lovely.
It's a massively important thing. Music is the universal language of the world. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't discriminate. Exactly, it has an effect on everyone and everything. And outside of the band, I do like a little bit of teaching myself, and I teach young kids how to play the ukulele and the guitar. And it's great because I can choose like what sort of tunes that I drop in there, and I sort of choose to teach them like Zeppelin, Deep Purple, Bowie, you know, all those bands that I was like brought up on.
So where did that come from, Drew? Is it in your family, music?
Yeah. Well, you know,
probably for both of you.
Yeah. Namely, just that, you know, my mum and my dad were big music fans, and they had a decent vinyl collection. Just playing it a lot as I was a kid, and it was the same for you, wasn't it? Just being exposed to it.
Yeah. Well, I only learnt the guitar when I was like 17. Because I broke my foot playing football, and I couldn't go out, couldn't do anything. And my brother had a guitar, so I learnt on his guitar. So it's quite late for me. You were 3 or what?
I've been playing since I was about 8.
Well, it's not held you back though, has it? Learning late.
Absolutely not, man.
So it's still time for you to pick the violin back up.
So just a quick question on, you know, did you imagine the industry from like 5 or 6 years ago? You met in 18, did you say? So from 18 to 25, how much has it changed that much? Because music has grown in different ways from Spotify and all what's gone on there, and how they download music now. It's so different.
Yeah, it's different. I think they're like TikTok and social media is a massive thing now, which when we started it wasn't as much. But yeah, I mean, it's the same with the world, isn't it? It's everything's changes,
fast,
everything's quick, and just trying to keep up with it.
You do find you have to be a content creator at the same time as a songwriter and a performer. Do you know what I mean? You've got to play the field because everybody else is doing it. So you have
get
to
left behind.
It'd be silly not to play the field like that. And we try, but the most vital and important thing at the root of it to me and you is the quality of the songwriting, and that's what we really care about. Do you know what I mean? As long as we're omnipresent on everything else and people can see us and we're getting enough exposure, we think the quality of the songs is what will come through at the end of the day. That sells your records, doesn't it?
And we are going to hear you. We are going to hear you play it in just a moment. But we should talk football, shall we? Now, you've already mentioned you're red. You and your
Hull City fan.
Hull City
fan.
Because I think that you said City, but it's Hull City. So let's talk about both of your respective clubs. Let's first of all talk about Manchester United, if you don't mind for now.
Used to it.
I'm sorry, but in all fairness, you know, last season obviously not a great season, the worst in Premier League history for Manchester United. What are you expecting this time around?
I'm expecting better football.
Yeah.
Nothing shy of. I trust in Amorim. Do you know what I mean? There's been passages of good play that I've seen. Even last season, there were moments where you see the system working and, you know, you want to believe in it. And I think especially the fact that he's been given a couple of decent transfers, you know, Mbeumo, Cunha, they play into his kind of playing style, the ball carriers, the pressing wingers. And, you know, we get the wing-backs overlapping and that. I know Dorgu's looking decent as well. So if we can just sort of feed into his system that he really wants to employ, because last season it was a transitional period, wasn't it?
Yeah,
it's hard, a big transitional period, and it's hard to sort of find the rhythm. And you saw little flashes of it here and there. I'm just trusting in him, man. I'm excited to see what the season's going to bring. There's a lot of naysayers that are United fans at the minute. Do you know what I mean? Because we're on the managerial merry-go-round. You just you drop one, you move on. You drop one, you move on, and it gets quite difficult to actually stand up and say, no, I trust in this guy. But I kind of do.
Yeah, I think that there's a fair few that I think feel like you. That you're
like his attitude, man.
The direction feels like it's going to take a long time, but a lot of United fans are getting that feeling that there's something there.
It's about building, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a slow process, but you've got to trust in it for it to happen.
Absolutely. Well, we're in Hull City. There's been a lot of issues there.
Oh, rubbish.
In a nutshell.
You are really optimistic.
Yeah, we are rubbish. I think we'll go down this season.
Oh, no.
We've got, I don't know how much you know about all the problems with the embargo.
And the owner,
Yeah, it's not great.
It's hard, isn't it? Because when he first came in, there was so much positivity. He put a lot of money in. And sadly, you see that a lot of the times that the owners sometimes come in, put a lot of money in, and they're gambling that they're going to go up straight away. And if it doesn't work out, you end up in a situation that you're in.
Yeah. Well, the team a couple of years ago, we probably should have gone up. Yeah. We had Liam Delap, Greaves, and a few other really good players. Liam Senior.
Yeah.
So I think you're right. He put all his eggs in. We're going to go up, but It's one of them. I think he owns another club in Turkey. I think it's Galatasaray has an interest in, or Fenerbahce or something.
Right.
And I think that's kind of taken his interest away. But we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. It's not great.
Hull City, I played against them when you had the famous Billy Whitehurst.
Oh, nice.
Do you know that name?
Yeah.
Billy was known as the hardest man in football.
Yeah.
I don't think many argued with him.
Right, well, if you don't mind, we would love to hear what you're going to play for us. What are you playing?
Yeah, so we're going to play the latest single that we brought out before the full EP came out. It's called Get Over Yourself.
Okay.
Yeah, great
Let's
stuff.
hear it then.
Yeah,
So this is the Rosellas.
Are we sat close enough?
Yeah, it's perfect.
maybe. Yes.
I think that'll be fine.
Right, ready, kid?
Yep.
And here we go. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Get over yourself, baby. Get over yourself. That could take a little more time till we get it right. You're driving yourself crazy. Be good to yourself. Crying every beautiful night till you get it right. 'Cause I'm there for all of the things you care for, all of the things you love. This chapter of happily ever after is never gonna be enough. Look after your love, lady. Look after your love. I can be the light in your eyes when we get it right. So get over yourself, baby. Get over yourself. We can take a little more time till we get it right. 'Cause I'm there for all of the things you care for, all of the things you love. This chapter of happily ever after is never gonna be enough. It's never enough. I'm there for all of the things you care for, all of the things you love. This chapter of happily ever after is never gonna be enough. No, it's never enough.
Great stuff, lads.
That's so good.
Great stuff.
We've already had a message in just saying some good music is just what I need. That's from Jill, who was not feeling well earlier, and we just mentioned her before,
nice
so
one, Jill.
she's loving it. Where can people find you? Are you gigging?
Yeah,
You've already mentioned
so
some already, but where?
We've got our biggest headline show to date in our hometown, Manchester, is on Saturday the 8th of November. We're playing the New Century Hall. And you can find all the info for that and everything else, all our music on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter.
Amazing.
It's pretty much just always at Rosellas Band, innit? Or at Rosellas.
Where did that name come from, by the way?
We originally wanted to be called something ever so slightly different, didn't we?
We didn't. You did.
Alright. And then, I think we checked on SoundCloud.
The Druellas, was it?
And I think another band had took the name a couple of weeks before, so we sort of settled on it. But then we only found out months and months later, Rosella's a parrot, innit?
Oh, I have no idea.
So everyone always says to us, what's the story behind the parrot? I'm like, there ain't one, man. It writes nice, it sounds nice, it looks nice.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
and I guess the rose, the Lancashire rose, stone roses. There's always a rose in somewhere, do you know what I mean? So maybe subliminal connection to that or something.
Yeah, very good.
Well, you've been terrific this morning, so
thank
good
you
luck.
for coming in.
Thank you very much
we
for
look
having
forward
us.
to seeing you climb with your
Nice
career.
one. Nice one.
Thank you very much. So that's the Rosellas. That's who you need to look out for. On the way next, we'll talk cricket with the state of play in the the final test put on day 4 between England and India. John Norman's with us next. Stop. Oh, honestly, that was the Rosellas. Loads of you getting in touch this morning saying how much you love them. Thank you very much for that. This is the Weekend Sports Breakfast. It is Crockenhill's finest, Tony Cascarino, who is alongside me, Natalie Sawyer. Here are some of your headlines today. Manchester United are prepared to sell striker Rasmus Højlund. The fee, supposedly, £30 million. And if he was sold, it would effectively be a loss for United, given the forward's book value. It's 43 million, as he's 2 years into his 5-year contract that he signed. Elsewhere, Lewis Hamilton said he was just useless after qualifying 12th for the Hungarian Grand Prix, while his Ferrari teammate Charles Leclerc took pole position. And Spurs will take on Newcastle later this afternoon in what could well be Son Heung-min's last game as a Spurs player, after announcing yesterday he will be leaving the club after 10 years. Yesterday, former Newcastle defender Darren Ambrose said now is the right time for Son to move on.
It's extremely disappointing. Of course it is. He's a legend at the football club, and he always will be. He got his hands on the trophy last season as well. And at that point, I just felt this was going to be the moment that he says his goodbyes.
It's a great way to go out, isn't it?
It certainly is. And it's the right time, in my opinion. It's the right time to go out. I'm not saying been on the decline in the last couple of years, but he's not been as good as he has been over the previous years. So I do feel it's the right time, and he's chosen well. I didn't think it was going to happen, actually, because he's come back to pre-season and he's gone on the tour with the football club. I thought Thomas Frank might have convinced him to stay maybe and get another year, but he's made the decision, and that I think every Spurs fan will be gutted and sorry to see him go, but he'll go with everyone's blessings.
For more of those stories, you can head to our website, talksport.com. Now, let's talk cricket. And the thrilling series between England and India coming to an end as we are in the, run chase that England have been set. 374 to seal the series win. They closed yesterday on 50 for 1 with Zach Crawley falling just before the close of play. So joining us to look ahead to what is to come today, it is our cricket correspondent, cricket editor, John Norman. How are you doing, John? Good morning.
Yeah, good. I'm looking forward to, hey guys, I'm looking forward to day 24 of this series, and it's going to be the final day as well. There was a little threat of rain, but I don't think that's going to happen. If England are going to chase down that record score, they're going to do it today. There's enough time to do it. So yeah, after 4 5-day tests, which have really pushed everybody right to the limits, we've got a 4-day affair, and it's whatever happens today, it's gonna cap off what's been a pretty extraordinary 5-test series between two of the biggest and best sides in world cricket.
I've been honest, John. I've been hooked. Been watching it the last couple of days. All the tension. It's gone. Either way, you didn't know what way it was going, the run rates, and then obviously when Zach Crawley got bowled out with a Yorker yesterday late on, that just sort of changed the dynamics again slightly. But I do say England are capable of getting that number, aren't they? Getting a 374.
They are. Yeah, they did it 4 tests ago. They were set an almost identical target to chase down in the first test of this series at Headingley. And you know what? I walked to the ground that morning completely confident that they were going to do it. And they did so comfortably. I'm not so confident today. I think India are favourites. There's a lot more in that pitch for the bowlers than there was at Headingley. But if any side in world cricket can chase it down, it is England. Australia couldn't chase that down. India couldn't chase that down. England have proven they can. The loss of Crawley right at the end of the day was a blow for England for sure. But they do bat deep. One of the ways this series has just kept us so captivated, though, Cass, is the way it has gone one way then the other. I struggle to remember a test match or a test series which swung so dramatically as it did on day 2 at the Oval. At lunch, India were miles off. They were absolutely on their knees. They'd posted 225 in first innings, and England had raced away 106 for 1. In 14 overs. It was absolutely ridiculous. England they didn't have one hand on the trophy. The other hand was carving the name England into the trophy. It was theirs. And then India hit straight back to have one of the best sessions they'll probably ever have in Test cricket, taking six England wickets. And of course, with the moment involving Chris Woakes late on day 1, that was another moment. And of course, you never, ever want to see something like this. It was a horrible, horrible moment. And we're not sure we'll ever see Chris Woakes bowl for England again. It's that serious a moment for him. So again, it just meant that the game just went back the way of India. And this is the seesaw nature of this contest has been throughout. Remember, after day 3 at Old Trafford, there was only one team that was going to win that match. It was England. And then India batted out for the best part of 2 days to save it, to leave themselves in this position where if they win today, draw the series, I think that's a win for India. Very few teams win away these days. And for India to come back from those positions, credit to a side that, remember, is captained by a guy that never captained them before this series.
Yeah. And obviously you think if the result's going to happen, it's going to happen today. It's not going to go to a 5th day. But realistically, and I know it's unlikely because of Bazball, England could take their time. They don't have to rush it. And I know we're basing this on hopefully the bowlers don't do the job for India, but they don't have to be wild.
No, and you know what? No, they weren't wild last night. They were actually quite I don't know, normal. Even at normal speed, though, this game will be done today because what have we got? We can actually bowl 98 overs today. So say there's not that we'll get them in. Because there was rain on day 1, they're trying to make up time. England only need to go at 3 and over.
Yeah. No,
so even in a non-Bazball era, the game probably is done today. So, but the point you make is completely right. England don't have to go at India. One of the things to bear in mind is that, like England, but for different reasons, they've only got 3 seamers. So essentially, England could try and knock them out the attack or sit on them and just force them into those third and fourth spells where the speeds are just going to start to dip, the ball get a bit softer, it's not going to move around as much. The problem is that unlike England, India have got two containing spinners, Washington Sundar and Ravindra Jadeja, who have just been the scourge of England with the bat. They can hold up an end. And if those two can hold up an end, it means that Shubman Gill can do what Ollie Pope couldn't do yesterday, and that is rotate his bowlers at the other end. Look, there's more than one way to skin a cat, whether you're batting or whether you're bowling. That's what we're going to see today. But I still feel like it's India who've got the upper hand. They can win this game in more ways than England can win. And if England do lose this game, sorry to say, there will be question marks about their ability to close out big series, because under Stokes and McCullum, they've not beaten Australia and they've not beaten India, and they've also thrown away advantages in other Test series as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, hopefully.
Big first hour, I'm sure, today.
Yeah, very much so. John,
big 6 hours, Cass. It's going to be, honestly, it's going to be epic today. I can just feel it.
Well, enjoy it, John. Thank you.
Cheers, John.
See you guys.
That's our cricket editor, John Norman, then. Don't forget you can get regular updates right throughout the day here on talkSPORT. And for overseas listeners, you can hear commentary of every ball on talkSPORT's cricket YouTube channel. Right, on the way next, we will talk about the Lions and see where it went wrong yesterday as they weren't able to complete a whitewash of the Wallabies.
Knows there are 20 managers in the Premier League, yeah? Well, actually, no. Around 3/4 of them are not managers. The terms manager and head coach are often used interchangeably to describe Premier League bosses, but they're actually two different jobs. So let's explain how and why. For years, fans referred to Mikel Arteta as Arsenal's manager, but I'm afraid technically...
I don't think so, no.
From his first day on the job, he was the Gunners' head coach. Let's pick a random moment in time, February 2025. Only 6 Premier League bosses actually held the official title of manager rather than head coach. Man City's Pep Guardiola, David Moyes of Everton, Ipswich boss Kieran McKenna, Southampton's Ivan Juric, Oliver Glasner at Crystal Palace and Leicester's Ruud van Nistelrooy were the only actual managers of their respective teams. Everyone else? That's right, head coach, including Ruben Amorim at Man United. He took over from Erik ten Hag, a man who had held the title of manager. Might come as a surprise that Amorim's appointment marked the first time ever that Man United had a head coach instead of a manager. But to understand why they made that decision, you also have to get what the difference is between a head coach and a manager. A manager's got a huge range of responsibilities. They're not just in charge of training and player lineups, they're also heavily involved in player sales and transfers. Critical stuff. But a head coach's role is far more focused on team training and performance on the pitch. So whereas Ten Hag was highly involved with decisions around transfers during his tenure, the intention was that Amorim wouldn't be, at least not on the same level. And as the sporting structure at Man United changed under Sir Jim Ratcliffe, people like Sir Dave Brailsford took charge of transfers instead. How all those roles play out in practice may be slightly different at different clubs though. On the other hand, the contracts of actual managers like Pep or Moyes had no limits on their job role and their involvement with transfers and contracts. But those guys are actually in the minority now, and it's a change that's happened pretty quickly. In 2019, there were only 6 head coaches in the Premier League, but by 2025 there were 14. A clear indication that more and more clubs are moving towards a model where the guy in charge is actually only really in charge on the pitch. And the way things are going, it might not be long before all 20 clubs have got head coaches, and the job position of football manager in the top flight is no more.
Good morning. This is the Weekend Sports Breakfast. I'm Natalie Sawyer, and with me it is the former Gillingham Millwall striker, Tony Cascarino.
Good morning.
Lots for us to bring you in this final hour of the show, but we're going to start by talking about the Lions, who weren't able to complete a 3-0 series whitewash of the Wallabies in the final test in Sydney, as Australia came good to win it. It's time for us to bring you an update on the rugby then in partnership with Tenor Men.
Qatar Airways Lions Tour Roundup on talkSPORT with coverage sponsored by Tenor Men. From protected pads and pants to reusable boxers, stay in control with Tenor Men. Keep control.
And here we are then. We're up and running, and Nick White gets the third and final test of the British and Irish Lions Series 2025 underway. Right, gives to Dylan Peach, and Dylan Peach scores in the left corner.
The Lions, they're on the rack, and they are real struggling.
It's a Lions tour that's pretty much had everything, has it? And now we've got play suspended due to a lightning strike. Tate McDermott will score, and that is it. Cherry on top of icing, on top of cake. I cannot see how the British and Irish Lions come back from this one. Game over. Series over. Well, the Lions are beaten in Sydney, but in a way it mattered not, because they already had the trophy done and dusted. It might be disappointment on the night, it's certainly not on the series. British and Irish Lions win the series 2-1.
Yes, so Australia winning that final test, in which was heavily weather affected, with threat of a thunderstorm and lightning, for example, meaning that the game was temporarily suspended for around 40 or so minutes. But joining us to look back on that and the series as a whole, it's Wales rugby legend James Hook. James, good morning. How are you today?
Hi, James.
Yeah, all good. Morning, guys. You okay?
Yeah, good.
Very, very well. I suppose maybe yesterday, should we say, just a game too far for the Lions?
Yeah, it was. It was. Like you just mentioned, horrendous conditions. You know, it's tough to play rugby in those conditions. But I think Australia just managed the game better. You know, they took full control. I thought Nick White was outstanding at scrum half. He controlled everything. He managed the conditions and set-piece dominance as well. Australia had set-piece dominance. It didn't help because obviously Itoje went off, James Ryan went off with HIAs, which affected the Lions set-piece. But yeah, it was total control for Australia, to be honest with you.
James, do you think I said it was a slugfest earlier this morning, and I came away thinking, were the Lions good enough to win 3-0 ultimately?
I think they were. You know, it's difficult when they wrapped the series up. They were 2-0 up. You know, and I know they wanted to go and try and make history and finish off 3-0, but it's a tough one when it's done and dusted. You know, so you know, there's an argument to say should there have been a few more changes just to freshen it up a little bit for the boys who perhaps didn't get a cap, who might have had a little bit extra, but you've got to give credit to Australia as well. The last 2 tests they've been outstanding.
Yeah, I think. Oh, sorry, Nat. I thought ultimately was that they weren't the team that England played in the first test, were they? Where England were clearly the better team. England. Sorry, sorry. The Lions were the. Well, there's a lot more Irish players, aren't there, in the team? But look. The Lions were the way better team in the opening tests, and they stood out as the scoreline flattered Australia in the first one, and last week and yesterday I felt it was completely different for the Lions.
Yeah, like you say, the first test, the Lions were comfortable, and if we're honest, it wasn't a great test match, that first test, but they got the job done, and like I say, the second test was one of the best test matches I've seen in a long, long time. You've got to give credit to Australia. They came out to the blocks and they thought, how are the Lions going to come back? And to be fair, they showed the mettle of the Lions in our second half, in our second test, came back, got the win and showed their game control. I thought Finn Russell was outstanding in that second test. And like I say, it was job done, wasn't it? So it was tough to back it up for the third time.
Yeah, just on Australia then, and going back onto that first test, we spoke about it afterwards and the result and everything, and saying perhaps they were undercooked. They'd only played that one warm-up game, that Fiji game, and in that game it wasn't great either. They left it late to win it. So do you think there might be an element of regret that they didn't have more preparation for this series?
Yeah, perhaps, yeah. They've been struggling for the last sort of 18 months, Australia, haven't they? It didn't help they lost their first choice 10 against Fiji, so they brought in Liner, who had his first start against the Lions. So it was tough for them, and obviously Skelton came in the second test and showed how good he is and how they missed him in the first test. Valentini as well, the number 8, who missed the third test. So they had a couple of key players missing, a combination of a few things. And I think that preparation, it does help. Obviously, the Lions had a lot of warm-up games, which they could try combinations out, try their best players. So there's a little bit to do with that, I think.
Yeah, I mean, look, let's get it right. Andy Farrell, the team, whoever, after winning the series, there's a real come down from that they won, and that was the objective, to go to Australia, win the series. Yeah, if you win it 2-1, great. And you felt that after they'd won, of course they were going to celebrate, enjoy it. I mean, I've been there myself, that you enjoy their moments. But there is a sort of a drop-off from there. And Australia yesterday was so clearly wanted to not be humiliated with a 3-0 defeat.
Yeah, exactly. And Australia, the World Cup's in Australia in 2 years' time. So, a 3-0 defeat for Australia would have been catastrophic for them. So they've shown their supporters and, everyone in Australia a little bit of hope. They go into the Rugby Championship now in the next couple of weeks. And if they can improve on those performances, we need Australian rugby to be good as well. We've got to come back there in 12 years' time. So, they're a proud nation, a proud bunch. But back to the Lions, we were talking during the warm-up games, and the performances weren't great during the warm-up games, were they? But I think we just said, as long as they win the test, it doesn't matter. And they won the test series, and that is all that matters for Andy Farrell.
Yeah. So in terms of the Lions then, who would you be picking out as your... I mean, I think you mentioned Finn Russell already, but who else would you be picking out as star performers?
Finn Russell, I think, like you say, that second test, he was outstanding. I thought Ellis Genge has been fantastic all tour. Obviously, he's on the bench for the last 2 tests. He uses that sort of impact sub. He was unlucky not to start, but I thought Genge has been brilliant. Tadhg Beirne, obviously, he's been fantastic at the breakdown in terms of his ball carrying. And Tom Curry as well. He's probably justified his starting position. Jack Morgan, could have easily done a job starting, in that 7 jersey, but I think Tom Curry and Jack Morgan, it was a fantastic battle. And, as a Welshman, a proud Welshman, I was chuffed to see Jack, earn his first cap in the second test and then come on yesterday and get a try as well. So, there was a couple of standout players there, but, those to mention a few.
Yeah. Maro Itoje as well, captain. I thought he grew. I mean, I felt they lost the Lions yesterday when he came off. They lost a little bit when he came off.
Oh, they did, with James Ryan, obviously. That set piece, just sort of crumbled a little bit without those two, didn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And you mentioned Nick White. I mean, he's a pesky little thing, isn't he? I know he's retiring. He's one of those players, and I said it earlier on, you want him in your team, but you don't want to play against him. He was involved in everything.
Oh, he got under the skin of the Lions, didn't he?
Yes,
and I think, I think Joe Smith might be having a little word in his ear to see if he can carry on, because he was outstanding.
He was.
Yeah. So Australia needs someone like him, and he certainly wound the Lions up.
He really, really did. He was involved in everything. It was hilarious watching him.
There's an Australian version of Dennis Wise. You know, like niggling everybody
he was,
during the game.
He was.
That's what he was
You
like.
got to have him.
You do. Well,
Oh, yeah, absolutely. He used to upset everybody in football, Dennis, even his teammates, you know.
Quite. 2029 is the next tour for New Zealand. Andy Farrell has already sort of indicated he'd love to be involved. Do you think he's earned that right?
I think he has. You know, it's no mean feat win the Test series. I think he's proved. Like I say, the performances, some of the performances weren't great, but it was all about a Test series win, regardless of how Australia are. I know they're eighth in the world, I think they are. But he's done the job, and he's showed, you know, with what he's doing with Ireland, what he's done here with the Lions, that he could justify a job there in New Zealand, no problem.
Yeah. Oh, James, thank you for being with us.
It was a great tour, James, wasn't it? It was really good. It was I mean, I know that lots of people wanted Australia to win just because everyone thought, most people were saying Lions are going to win this series, which they did. But because they won it 2-0 and comfortable.
But the way
it was great. It was really great.
As we touched on, the win yesterday for Australia it reignites the love for the sport, hopefully in Australia, because it has been going through a bit of a down period. Yeah. James, as I say, thank you for being with us today. It's been great.
Cheers, James.
Pleasure. Thank you, guys. All the best.
Wales legend James Hook there. Fabulous stuff. So 2029 is the next tour for New Zealand.
So it's 12 years' time again back in Australia. Is that what he said?
So
that's a long time, isn't it? You're only going to do one, aren't you, in your career, really? You can't do two.
Well, depends how young you are, I suppose, when you start. But I know what you mean.
It's a long time.
Yeah, it is. But,
I'm sure
there's only so many nations they play. Maybe they need to open up.
The South Africa, the tours, you have New Zealand.
There has been talk of France maybe doing something with the Lions, or even Argentina properly. And so it depends whether they want to open it up. But then, I don't think they can do many. It has to be within.
How many injuries are going to come?
Well, I know, but the problem is it's everything else around it as well.
Course,
the Lions can't necessarily be the priority when you've got the whole calendar to consider and World Cups and everything else.
Six nations.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, on the way next, Ben Jacobs will be with us to bring us the latest transfer news.
Qatar Airways Lions Tour Roundup on talkSPORT with coverage sponsored by Tenor Men. From protected pads and pants to reusable boxers, stay in control with Tenor Men. Keep control.
morning. This is the Weekend Sports Breakfast. We're live on your radio, YouTube and smart TV as well. It is Tony Cascarino, the former hairdresser turned professional footballer, who is alongside me, Natalie Sawyer, and we're with you until 10. And then you've got the Sunday edition to look forward to. Let's focus on the transfer news, shall we? Because we've got less than a month now until this summer window closes. Joining us, it is our transfer correspondent, Ben Jacobs. Ben, how you doing?
Good morning, I'm good.
Hi,
How are
Ben.
you?
Yeah, we're
good.
lovely as well, thank you. I suppose we need to start with the saga that is Alexander Isak. Any latest on that?
Well, I think the Alexander Isak situation is the one to be patient on, because Liverpool, even though it sounds a little bit paradoxical to some, are simultaneously not inclined to make a bid now, but also not walking away. And what does that mean? Well, basically, they don't want to bid blind. They don't want to waste their time. They don't want to keep going to Newcastle United before perhaps Newcastle are in a position where they will actually do business. So it requires Newcastle to effectively indicate to Liverpool that now is the timing when you can actually do a deal. And if Liverpool return to the table, then they want to be able to get this done swiftly and not find that there's a string of consistent rejections. How that happens, you could argue two attackers coming into Newcastle United. Maybe there's a scenario where with Isak back in Newcastle, he can force the move in a further capacity, because obviously not being part of a pre-season tour versus potentially saying he's not going to train, he's not going to be part of a Premier League squad. All of these things could, in theory, come in the future. But obviously the opposite's happened at the moment. Isak has flown in. The expectation is that he will be part of Newcastle United training sessions after they get back from South Korea. They've got a game today, so Isak has to kind of train alone because the rest of the squad have got that match against Tottenham Hotspur. So a few moving parts, but my sense is that, in short, if Benjamin Sesko was to pick Newcastle over Manchester United, that would be a sign of encouragement and maybe the first step towards Isak and Liverpool potentially becoming a realistic possibility.
So, Ben, if Isak doesn't happen to Liverpool, then surely we're expecting Liverpool to go after another forward in European football. You know, every club has other choices. So are Liverpool going to add another centre forward? Because they clearly have the intent to do that.
Yeah, it's a fascinating situation because we've worked on the premise all summer that Darwin Núñez is expected to leave. Hugo Ekitike has come in. If they didn't get Alexander Isak, does that change the scenario around Darwin Núñez? And then it's Núñez and Ekitike. I think unlikely, because we know there's Saudi interest in Darwin Núñez. If he indicates he wants that move, then Liverpool are willing sellers. But if he doesn't want to go to Saudi, somebody's got to meet the valuation for Darwin Núñez. If alternatively, with Luis Diaz off to Bayern, it isn't to be Alexander Isak, then maybe Liverpool look at a specialist left winger. Again, they have to make a judgment call on Darwin Núñez, and then in a year's time, they come back in for Alexander Isak. So there could be another number 9 option, but don't rule out the possibility that Ekitike comes in. Big question mark over Núñez. If Isak isn't possible, perhaps they go down the line of a left winger. Maybe that left winger can also play as number 9 in a secondary position. So Liverpool have other options, but at the moment, I'm not aware of them, for example, saying, let's enter the race for Benjamin Sesko if Isak isn't possible, or any other big name striker. I think the full focus is on waiting to see whether Isak becomes genuinely available. But I wouldn't rule out a young left winger coming in as well.
Before we move on to Benjamin Sesko then, Johan Wissa, who is a player at my club Brentford, but I don't know for how much longer, Ben.
Yeah, I think this has vibes of Alexander Isak in the sense at the beginning of the window, Isak was not for sale. Now, clearly, that stance from Newcastle is softened in some capacity. With Johan Wissa, there's sort of conflicted information from certain sources that I speak to. So the Wissa side say it wasn't tied at all to Brian Mbeumo because he was always allowed to leave on a kind of verbal pact a year ago, actually when Ivan Toney went to Saudi Arabia. And Wissa's belief is, regardless of any other moving parts, he was told 12 months ago if he stayed for last season, he could go for 30 million euros to Premier League clubs. And this is why Wissa has agitated for the move because he feels like that number was met and he still wasn't allowed to go. The Brentford side is there was no formal agreement to that nature. And as soon as Brian Mbeumo went to Manchester United, of course, they didn't want to lose Wissa as well. But in the last 48 hours, my understanding is that the two parties have spoken directly, and actually they're now on the same page, and Brentford are willing to sell Wissa. So his exclusion from the friendly against QPR was not necessarily down to any acrimony or animosity. It's that protection element because he's more likely now to leave. And as soon as Brentford find a replacement, that exit is expected to be sanctioned. And Newcastle are, of course, the front runners because they're the ones bidding. They're the ones that are at the table. No Spurs yet. No return bid from Nottingham Forest. So Wissa and Newcastle stands a much more realistic chance now in the coming days or the coming weeks because suddenly, as long as they get a replacement, Brentford are willing to sell.
Ben, there's a number of clubs that have done relatively very little business. August, look, so a lot of managers like to get their players in early for the obvious reason because they can prepare them for the season and feel like they're getting 2 or 3 weeks to get them up to speed, get them in, you know, integrated within the group. Now, I look at Palace, I look at Fulham, you could make Everton to some degree, same way, West Ham, all of these clubs and others to do more business in now we're in the first week of August.
Yeah, it's like a rush and a month akin to a sort of January all of a sudden for these clubs because they haven't done as much business as they would have hoped. Oliver Glasner said that he was expecting more signings. I think part of the reason is you're heading into a new financial year in July, so you have to be a little bit slower. And then ultimately, so many big clubs have put down serious money, but some of the other Premier League teams are maybe a little bit more conscious of their PSR position. Are they going to get moving? Yes. Crystal Palace have to resolve the future of Mark Gahey, the players prepared to stay, decide his future after the World Cup, but Palace want that money. That could allow them to move in the market. They'll want to try and keep hold of Eberechi Eze, but it might be tough if Arsenal come calling and a bid is expected. With West Ham, as soon as they got the Mohamed Kudus money, I think they're in a position to move. So I'm expecting midfielders to come in. I know that in the last 24 hours, Graham Potter said how it's all very positive with Lucas Paqueta. Now he's been cleared by the FA, but there's still a possibility that offers are entertained. So I think a few midfielders are going to come in as far as West Ham United are concerned, and finding a 6 and an 8 is high priority. And in fairness to West Ham, Callum Wilson signed yesterday on a free transfer after leaving Newcastle United. Leeds are going to continue to do business. They've not been slow, in my opinion, but keep an eye on central midfield and a playmaker in particular. Bilal Al-Khanous at Leicester is the one that they've inquired on, but there's quite a lot of competition there. So these clubs now have to show their hand. They have to be decisive. They have to pick between the eithers and the ors because time is obviously starting to run out. And I'd be surprised if your West Hams and your Crystal Palaces and Tottenham need more as well. I don't think they're going to close this window without 2 or 3 at each of these clubs still coming in.
There's just a couple of other players really to single out and mention Benjamin Šeško and what's happening with him, and also Bruno Fernandes. I mean, it seemed as though that Saudi that had gone away, the interest, but there's reports now suggesting there could be another bid.
I think the door's shut for Bruno Fernandes. He'll do another year at Manchester United minimum and wants to stay there, and more broadly told Saudi he wants to stay in Europe because it's a World Cup year. Last 28 days or so of the window, I don't think we're going to get any surprises there. It's true that Cristiano Ronaldo basically extended and crucially got equity in the club in doing so he can actually sit at board level and have a say in recruitment, and he is. So there was an informal outreach to Bruno Fernandes, but I wouldn't call it an offer or a negotiation. And Bruno Fernandes reiterated what he said to Al Hilal, which is that he wants to stay at Manchester United. So it'll be a huge shock if anything develops between Bruno Fernandes and Saudi Arabia. And then with Benjamin Šeško, all about the player now. I think it's as simple as that. There's a lot of talk and counterclaims about, in Slovenia, reporters said he's picked Newcastle, and then within Newcastle, we speak to people and they're really fearful of Manchester United. But I don't think this is really a case of who's going to outbid who. It's simply, does Benjamin Šeško communicate to the clubs, which could happen today, tomorrow now, that he wants Man United or Newcastle. If he wants Newcastle, it's the simplest deal in the world, because eventually they'll pay what it takes to Leipzig. So don't worry about this whole, have they had a bid rejected? Are they finessing it? Is it going to be accepted? They'll end up paying Leipzig, whatever it takes. Simple as that. If Šeško in the next 24, 48 hours says Newcastle United is his football club. If he says Man United, it's a bit more complicated, because Newcastle would back off, and then a Manchester United going to try something lower, different, chuck in a player. It's harder for Manchester United to just say, here's the check that you need, let's get him on a plane, because their PSR position, their financial situation, the funds that they've got are different. So that's what the clubs are waiting on. Does he actually communicate finally Man United or Newcastle? If it's Newcastle, quick deal, and then maybe Isak has that door unlocked to go to Liverpool. If it's Manchester United, it might drag on a bit, and then of course that could potentially impact the Isak saga as well.
Brilliant. Ben, thank you for all of that.
Thanks,
Very useful
Ben.
information.
Cheers, guys.
Thank you. That's Ben Jacobs then, our transfer correspondent. Cristiano Ronaldo doesn't miss a trick, does he?
Don't. He's just bought the Middle East, isn't he?
Okay, so I'll sign this deal, but I have to be part of the board. Is that all right? Yeah. Makes sense. Right.
You know, I'm pretty much guaranteed he's buying a football club at the end of his career.
Well, it would make sense.
He's definitely buying a football club.
Just where?
Well, I mean, obviously he's worth an absolute fortune, but even in these levels, can he go and do it on his own, or is it a consortium?
I mean, the fact we're seeing, Luka Modric with Swansea, and Gareth Bale wants to get involved with Cardiff, and David Beckham. Yeah, I mean, it does feel as though it's inevitable, perhaps, like you say. I mean, I think he's got a bit of spare change. Right, we are going to be joined later on, by the way, by the Bromley manager, Andy Woodman, as he reflects on his side's opening game at Shrewsbury. And there was a little bit of an issue with one of the assistant referees, which led to a delay. We're going to get his thoughts on all of that later on in the show here on the Weekend Sports Breakfast. This is the Weekend Sports Breakfast. It's the former Gillingham striker Tony Cascarino who's with me, Natalie Sawyer. And just to let you know, Jeff Stelling and former Chelsea Aston Villa, and most importantly, Cass's mate, Andy Townsend, are back for talkSPORT Breakfast tomorrow morning from 6 until 10. The Manchester United legend, Liz Rio Ferdinand, will be joining them in the studio for a deep dive into his former side, having just spent some time with the squad. He'll provide insight into the mood in the camp ahead of the new season. So that's talkSPORT Breakfast with Jeff Stelling and Andy Townsend tomorrow from 6.
Yeah, good.
Be interesting.
Yeah, that'd be good. That'd be good. Yeah. Rio's a big guest, isn't he? And he's had an unbelievable career, if you think about it. Rio. From the West Ham days all the way to Leeds and then Manchester United being successful.
Mm-hmm.
Hell of a career.
Oh, no, very much so. But also just to hear, like we said there, what the camp is like, what the mood is like at Manchester.
Well, I'm sure it'll be all upbeat and positive this time, more than it's been in years gone by. Hopefully, Ruben Amorim can do a job of transferring it from that club that had felt like there was a lot of negativity. There were too many cliques. I don't know. I'm not in the camp, but it felt like it was a very cliquey club. And the ins and outs. This is what happens when players think they're not wanted at the club or being pushed aside on loan, from Sancho to Rashford and others. They've had this issue along the way, and the uncertainty of whether they're wanted at the club to be kept by the manager.
Wow. And some of those players, we still don't know what's happening with them.
No, they still don't know the answers yet.
The outcasts as such, yeah. Okay, it's time for a little bit of this.
What is the answer?
No debate from me. He's not telling the truth. I think about that hour ago. Yeah, I think about that.
It's baffling me.
I'll be shocked. I don't agree with you.
What could it be?
It might take a couple of weeks to think about it. I don't think there's any debate.
I know the answer.
Perfect cocktail. I kept thinking to myself, bonkers.
I like the way you say bonkers.
I love the word bonkers.
I know you do. And it's bonkers. It just rolls off the tongue quite nicely, doesn't it? Yeah. It's the time of our show where we ask Cass the most pressing questions in the world of sport today. I haven't read through these, Cass. We don't know where we're going with it.
Nor do I.
Crystal Palace may have won their first ever trophy just a couple of months ago, but the summer hasn't quite gone according to plan. They're going to find out next week with regards to what's happening in Europe. Will they be playing in the Europa League, or will it be the Conference League? And they've spent only £2 million in this transfer window. Their former owner, Simon Jordan, thinks Oliver Glasner is perfectly entitled to be demanding more.
If he isn't given the tools to be able to continue to progress, you're going to have to realise, as an owner, well, there's a potential I'm putting myself in harm's way here. Because whilst I don't give this guy everything he wants, I've got to give him everything he possibly needs, and balance it between what he wants and what he needs. Otherwise, I'm going to find myself in the world of someone taking my manager. And when they take my manager, they disrupt my backroom staff, and then they take my bloody players.
I mean, that is an interesting point in itself, which is so true. When you appoint a manager, a lot of them will come with their backroom staff. And then if they depart, either through a sacking or they've gone to another club, you often have the upheaval of the backroom staff go as well. And I remember having this conversation with my brother, funnily enough, before Keith Andrews was appointed the Brentford head coach. And we were saying, I was thinking we were going to bring in an external person. Yeah. And my brother was the one saying, but the problem is if that manager then comes in and does really well, he's going to be off, as sooner than Thomas Franks, for example. And he'll take all that staff and then you're starting up again. So that makes all sense, what Simon was saying there. But, we are seeing Crystal Palace in a situation where they're not spending. Oliver Glasner previously has spoken about having a small squad and it being an issue. When you've got Europe to contend with, is there a fear that Glasner might get into a situation where he's totally unhappy and within his rights to, demand more?
Yeah, and they should give him more. I absolutely agree that more is needed to be done at Palace, and they've never been a big spending club anyway. No. I said to you earlier, Christian Benteke from 16 to 17 was their record signing. They've never surpassed that.
That was 30 odd million, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think just over 30 million. Yeah, so, so they've never really been a big spending club. They sold Elise last season, last summer. So they've done the odd deal out of players. People like Zaha have left the football club, but they've still got major assets. They've got Mark Gahey, they've got Walton, they've got Mateta, they've got Eze. So they haven't lost any of them. But you are in danger if nothing is done. Then it can be a snowball effect, and you can lose a manager if the manager thinks I'm not getting to some level what I'm needing. And someone's touting for him, or someone's putting, we'll take this particular manager, especially after 6-7 weeks of the season, that someone could come in and take him, because, as we know, managers can lose their job by October, November. So, it's a dangerous position, and he deserves the right to be backed.
Well, that's it, isn't it?
That's the whole reason. The transfers they did last season, which were relatively cheap, that enabled them to have a really good side.
Yeah.
So, he deserves to be backed. Absolutely.
And like we say, we'll find out the Court of Arbitration for Sport hearing and what's going to happen with Crystal Palace in the next week or so. Right, let's move on to the face and voice of football for a generation, which is Jeff Stelling even. He revealed on Friday he's a massive fan of Love Island. Have a listen.
Harry. If today is National Girlfriend Day, it's going to cost Harry an absolute fortune, because there is nobody that he hasn't been out with.
Jeff, I love the fact.
Oh, he is. He's a proper Casanova.
So would you vote it as one of the top cultural moments?
No, it's not cultural. I like to tell people I watch it because it's a social experiment.
I'm afraid whoever Harry is, I've not a clue. I've not been watching Love Island. It's not my thing at all. Are you partial to a bit of Love Island?
Now and again I've switched it on and watched it.
Dabbled,
And, and it is entertaining. And you see the dynamics of couples and how they're getting together. They seem to ditch each other so often, so quickly.
The point of the show.
I know.
Finding true love with someone else, obviously.
Would I go home and rush home to watch it? No. If it was on,
Would you
I'd probably
set it to record?
I'd suffer it for about 20-30 minutes at max.
It's not for
No, never record. No.
Do you know what I don't get as well? When it first came out, however many years ago it was, I kind of get the... I didn't even watch it then. I think I watched maybe one series. I can't remember which one it was. I kind of get why it was exciting. But as I say, we're clearly into 5, 6, 7 years of it, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And you kind of know the basics of it. I'm a bit bored of that sort of
Well, it's quite a superficial show as well, isn't it?
Yeah, completely.
Oh, very superficial.
Completely.
But, I mean...
It's not my bag. But if it's your bag, that's fine.
Yeah.
Anything else you'd recommend on TV while we're here?
Sport.
Sport. Talk about it. Talk sport. That's it.
No, I tell you what I do love. I love watching series that were on, getting a bit nostalgic and going back and watching something of like the Sweeney or Minder. And I watch it from,
do you?
only just to watch it because of growing up. And because I always found it, I used to find the Sweeney and Minder locations in London that I'd been at.
Yes.
So I used to think, I know that street. I know where that is. And, so I always found it nostalgic.
Isn't it funny when you do see
and just
things
seeing,
like that?
by the way, one of my pet hates is parking, but seeing cars parked on the road.
Oh, I know.
And no double yellow lines. And just sitting, I think, what a lovely thing that was, that you could drive into London, you could park your car and not even consider a parking ticket.
You're going down the grumpy old man territory.
No, but
here.
I'm telling you now, it's one of my bit. I find parking, I feel it's like theft.
Oh, crikey. What? As in...
Well, they just want to keep charging and keep every double yellow line is put everywhere, and surely cities should have some sort of parts of it,
and
where you can park
and everything,
except for going to
I know what you mean.
But I love watching old shows, getting a little bit more nostalgic, watching them and thinking, do that road there now? You can't even go on and park, and there's all these cars parked, people getting out, and
I know exactly what you're saying, because it's funny when you talk about that. When obviously when you get photos of when you were growing up. Parents have got loads of photos everywhere, and there are photos of me and my brother outside the house, and there's like just one car parked on our street. Now if you go down
either side of the road, let them go one side, then it's out. It's like there's traffic lights on the streets and they're not even there. Your turn to go, mate. No, it's me. And then if you attempt to go out and someone sees you, they stick their two fingers up at you because you've tried to jump in and get in and gone. Don't get me started.
A right whinge over parking.
I know, man. I love it. It's fun.
I do know what you mean. It's a weird thing when you are watching a program and you suddenly go, I know where that is.
Yeah.
and you might be with someone who's not from the area that you're aware that they're not as aware, and you're thinking, I know where that is.
Yeah.
It's like the film Help, the Beatles film.
Yeah.
Where there's a scene where they're in a pub, if I remember, Ringo, I think, is kidnapped. That's such a long time ago. He's kidnapped and he's in the basement. There's a lion and all sorts. Yeah. And that pub is on the river by my mum and dad's house.
Oh,
and
right.
funnily enough, I was walking my dog the other day down there. They started doing tours, Beatles tours of just this little stretch. But then as I'm walking down, I'm thinking, the Beatles have walked down this.
Yeah.
It's quite funny.
Yeah. What a nice chat. Help us, Tony ended up with parking moaning.
You took it that way. Oh, goodness me. I don't think we've got time for our Jamie O'Hara clip. So what we'll do is we'll take a break, and when we return, we'll be joined by the Bromley manager, Andy Woodman.
$10K for Coldplay.
Good morning, this is the Weekend Sports Breakfast. It's the former Marseille and Nancy striker Tony Cascarino who is with me, Natalie Sawyer. And yeah, you've only got a few days left to enter our huge prize draw to win a VIP night out at Wembley to see Coldplay and 10 grand as well. We're giving you the chance to win 6 tickets in a private box for you and your mates on August the 22nd. It comes with full hospitality and 10 grand as well. Spending money completely tax-free. It ends though tomorrow. So here's how you enter. It's for 18s and over. UK excluding Northern Ireland. Text the word WIN to 83338. That by tomorrow night, 11 p.m. And that's it. You'll be in the draw. Text costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, and you must have the bill payer's permission, or you can post your name and number to Coldplay Competition, PO Box 3190, Colchester CO2 8GP, and that has to arrive by 5 p.m. on the 7th of August. This is a TalkSPORT limited promotion run on TalkSPORT, Talk and Virgin Radio UK stations. Full T's and C's are at talksport.com. But very quickly before we move on to our next guest, Stephen, been in touch. I agree with Tony. We went to Windsor and the car park for 4 hours cost £22. Daylight robbery. You say that. I had to park in Hammersmith the other day for a couple of hours. £16.
It's mental. Where we gone with parking, I don't know.
Angry it made me. Anyway, right. The EFL is back. It began on Friday night, but there's loads of games that have already taken place today and a few more still to come in this sort of first, if you like, match week of the leagues. And then the Championship returns next weekend. Pleased to say, joining us to look back on their opening game, it's the Bromley manager, Andy Woodman. Andy, good morning.
Andy.
Good morning, Nat. Morning, Cass.
Nice to see you. How are you doing?
Yeah, very well, thank you. Yeah, nice to be back in competitive football and the season underway.
Yeah, very, very much so, I'm sure. So let's talk about your opening game. It was a goalless draw at Shrewsbury, but it had a rare moment where there was a tannoy announcement, wasn't there, asking for anyone who was a qualified referee to make themselves aware to representatives at Shrewsbury. What happened?
Yeah, you couldn't write it. I mean, first and foremost, the linesman was unwell, so
Right.
I was hoping he was going to be okay, and he actually was. And then the game got stopped. So I thought the fourth official would just get changed and the game would start. But then we had an announcement on the tannoy: is there a fourth official or a referee in the crowd? So apparently it couldn't start until we had a fourth official, which was crazy, really. And it kind of took a bit of the shine off the match, because it was a good match till then, and then it became a bit dull and a bit of a long day. And then some poor old fella come out the crowd with his flip flops on and stood as the fourth referee, which was mad. I'm not even sure he had his certificates with him or how they verified it.
Yeah, I was going to say, how
Prove
do
it,
you
you
know?
gotta prove it.
Yeah. It's not like he just got his red and yellow cards out. I'm always ready.
Yeah. Apparently a Bromley fan put himself forward, but then turned around as I'm too drunk to even contemplate. I mean, I beg to believe that he might have done a better job anyway.
Has this never happened to you before then, as a manager or player?
No. I mean, I've never heard an announcement go out over the stadium.
I am sure it's happened at Brentford. I'm sure I've been in the stands at when it was Griffin Park, obviously, and I'm sure we've had that, but it's very rare, obviously.
Yeah. Andy, tell us about, from where you were last season, getting promoted from the conference, the pre-season you had, and the issues that you had to deal with Bromley being a league team this year. Has it changed much, the dynamics of what you had to prepare for this season?
I think it has a little bit, because obviously we're not an unknown quantity. We're kind of a little bit more in people's radar a little bit. I think as a club, that Cas, we're growing still. We're having a new stand built. There's always something going on at the ground off the pitch, but on the pitch, I felt like last January window we strengthened, and this summer we've strengthened within our sort of budget. And I think we're okay. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to get carried away. We're not going to, be an unbelievable financial team that spends loads of money, but we've got a team of players that are really honest and really together, and as you know, that can take you a long way, and it has took us a long way up until now. So we'll be competitive.
Did you lose any during the summer, Andy?
No, only the ones that I felt that had gone as far on the journey as they could with us. So the ones that really I didn't think I could take any further. I kept the bulk of the squad together. We lost a couple of good loans. Obviously, they come to you and you fall in love with them, and then they go. Danny Imray and Cameron Congreve, who were brilliant for us. But then, you've got to go and find the next ones, and there's always the next one out there, and that's what we're working on hard at the moment.
I mean, I'm sure you might not want to declare it as such, but at the start of any season, I'm sure there are ambitions, there are targets you're setting yourself. Is there anything you want to tell us?
Well, no, I think what happens is people are always nervous to say what their targets are, because they don't want to get shot down. Our target's playoffs. We want to make the playoffs. That was our target last year, and everyone looked at me as if I was a lunatic. And we finished 4 points off it, and we fell up. Fell a bit short. But this year, that's our target. We've got our strap line of what we're trying to achieve, and we've gone through how we're going to try and get there, which is all very nice and easy on a presentation, but you've got to put the graft in and get the results. So, if we don't make playoffs, then I would look at this as a sort of an underwhelming season, because we have to keep progressing as a football club. And I think if you haven't got that target, you're never going to hit anything. You're just going to meander through a season.
Who do you look at in the division, Andy, that you think, or they're going to be an outfit that, we know they're going to be good? They've had the investment. They're just a good side anyway. Who do you look at?
I think the obvious one's MK Dons. I think it's no secret, the managers worked at a high level there, Paul Warne, and they've invested heavily, and some of the wages I'm hearing that are going around that place are astronomical for our league. So I would imagine all the pressure's on them. I don't think you can underestimate Ian Holloway, what he does at Swindon. I mean, he's been around the block so long, more than any of us, and he'll quietly go about his way. He won't quietly go about his business. He'll go about his business. And I think they're a good team and a good club for this division. So they're the two that sort of stick in my head that I think will be up there.
And you've shown, as we have seen in recent years as well, the teams that have come up from the National League give a good account of themselves in League Two. We've got Barnet and Oldham who are in League Two this time around. I'm sure you're expecting similar from them too.
Yeah, we have Barnet next week, and I watched him last week, and that'll be a good outfit. The manager there knows what he's doing, and they're a decent club. They're a club that's been a league club before. So, and again, Oldham, that is another big club. I think the jump from National League to the league, there is a jump. There's no doubt about that. But the actual quality of football in the National League is still very good, and there's some very good players and good teams down there. So yeah, we won't underestimate any of those, because it was only a year ago that was us, so we're kind of quite aware of not to get caught out on that.
On another note, I see your boy had a decent move in the summer.
Yeah, I mean, that was a lovely summer for us, I've got to be honest. There was all sorts of phone calls going on when we was away in Portugal, and then he showed me a text saying Arnie Slot wants to have a FaceTime with me at 6 o'clock, and I thought it was a wind-up, to be honest. But yeah, lovely move for him. He's delighted, as you would be, going to Liverpool. We're not sort of stupid to know what the role is in one breath, but equally, you've got to go there and have a chance to try and get in the team if you can, and that's what he's done. And I sort of admire him for that, rather than sort of going there thinking it's just going to be an easy ride. He's really going to try and push to be in amongst it, and credit to him.
Yeah, Andy, he'll be paying for your pension if he stays there, gets to there a 10-year period like some of these for, the third choice keeper. But your boys, it's a great, it started, where was it? Because obviously he was at Newcastle, wasn't he? But where was he before Newcastle?
He was at Crystal Palace.
Crystal Palace, that's right.
As a young player, and then Mike cleverly signed him, or sent someone to sign him behind my back when he was at Palace, and give me no option that we had to sign at Newcastle, which we loved, by the way, and that was brilliant for him at Newcastle. And then he's gone away and played some games. He's gone and played, I think, about 300 championship games, and you got to be in the Premiership. That's where everyone wants to be, and I'm really delighted. And just speaking to him, the level of detail at a club like Liverpool and how they do things is phenomenal for him. And he's working with the best keeper in the world, no doubt. So it's only going to help him with his journey.
Yeah. But tell us then, because you said that he's well aware of the job he has to do, but he still wants to fight for his first team opportunities. But how did they sell it to him then when he, like you say, he's not necessarily going to be the number one choice?
No, I don't think it was really a sell. I think it was more of a case of sort of saying to him, look, you're not coming in as number one. We've signed another goalkeeper for 25 million, so I guess he'll be number two, pushing to be number one. And we want you to sort of be there to work with both of them, push both of them, and be a good professional around the place, And it's a role he's not done, to be fair. So it's new for him because he's always been a number one. And we had other options that were way financial. I say we, I'm saying it with a pension here.
He's still your baby, that's why it's a we.
When I said we, I was just thinking of that Saudi train we had. But yeah. So there was other options, but I had to admire him because he kind of sort of said, look, if I don't go to Liverpool and I choose another option, I'll be kicking myself if I see someone in that Liverpool shirt that might have been me. And I really respected him for that. And he's gone there. He's really given it a go. And look, you just don't know where it's going to take you. Alisson, unfortunately, has gone away with a family problem. The other goalkeeper, something might happen. You just don't know. And if you're not there, you're not going to get a chance. And I'm looking forward to how this is going to pan out.
Yeah. Brilliant. Great. Oh, well, listen, Andy, we're always a big fan of yours, and we love you coming on. So thank you.
You're looking really well, Andy.
Yeah, best of luck for the season.
Thank you very much. Lovely to see you both. Thank you very much.
Take care. Andy Woodman there. That's the Bromley manager. Go on. Oh. Typical then. It's not on the screen when you do it. He's cheeky, that one.
Yeah. He's looking well though.
He is looking well.
He's looking really well.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah. Right. That is it for us this weekend. We will be back next weekend as the Championship starts. And then we're just a weekend away from the Premier League as well. Gosh, I really have to come around quick.
Yeah, great.
On the way next, you've got the Sunday edition.